Ladies and gentlemen, you might know this guy from his podcast, You're Welcome.
Or for one of the greatest fighters in the world.
I was getting to that. Thank you. I was being funny. It'd be funny if I was like, you might know this guy from his podcast and only his podcast. The guy that Joey Diaz calls Chael Sonnen. Always, Chael Sonnen's here.
A.K.A. the American Gangster.
What's happening, guys?
A.K.A. one of my good friends, man.
Thank you, buddy.
Yeah.
Well, A.K.A. one of the most colorful people. One of the guys I love to listen to. No matter what, you could be talking about coffee, you could be talking about the shirt you wore, and somehow I'm listening. Which is my little plug for the fact that you should be taking Joe Rogan's place. We'll get to that. Now, listen.
I can't believe you're in L.A., my man. I always text you when you're in L.A. Always. I'm always hammering when you're in L.A. When you're in L.A.
Yeah.
And I think the last time you texted me, no time soon.
No time soon. I came in for this. I got to do Rogan, but I came in for this.
That's how big we are.
Man.
That is how
I love
big.
it,
And
man.
congrats on your success.
Yeah.
But after I
Thanks,
booked
brother.
for this, I go, well, I should get a hold of Joe and see if I can
100%.
But that's how that happened. I'm here for you guys. This is the big time. Look at this.
Look at this. How weird is it?
Beautiful.
I'm
It's
excited.
awesome.
How weird is life,
It's
Chael?
awesome.
Yeah,
Hey,
man.
what's up with the man? So I see your guys. I text you right after. You guys put out this promo, the fighter, the kid, and the man. Was that a marketing tool, or is he?
No. You're talking about Will Sasso?
Yeah.
No, Will Sasso is just an asshole.
He takes over.
Yeah, and I love him so much, but he decided, he's like, guys, welcome to the fighter, the kid, and the man. And I was like, the joke would be like, no, it's not that. And he was trying to wedge his way into the podcast.
I bought it. I bought the spot. It was so good.
Oh,
You guys
you're
were
talking about
all
Fighting
so
Kid
good.
3D.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I thought,
When you
they were
wrote that
actually
thing.
doing that.
Yeah.
I thought, they don't need a third guy. But I get it, and I want to see this guy because he was a dick in that ad, and it was awesome.
He's so great.
That's who you need on your podcast. Will Sasso used to write for the WWE.
Oh, really?
And he's balls deep in WWE.
He's also funny as hell. He's one of the funniest people. I've actually said
brilliant.
this. He might be in many ways just over the long haul the funniest person I've ever met.
overall.
Yeah, overall the
Swiss
funniest.
Army knife. Funny.
Yeah.
Like he can do anything.
Yeah, it's also not far-fetched to say he might be the most talented person in Hollywood.
He's up there.
Overall.
That's aggressive, but yeah,
I don't know. Like if you
That's
say, look
very
at it, like it's
aggressive.
like if you look, who's the best overall athlete, right? He could be the best overall comedian. Like
He's
he can
up
do
there.
everything.
Enough about Will Sasso. Chael, what the hell have you been up to, my brother? You're all over, man.
Yeah, I've been busy. It's been fun. Well, we had fight week. I work for ESPN, but our that's a cool thing to say, right? But the reality is ESPN's commitment is only to pay-per-views because it only can be. Everything else is owned either by Fight Pass or it's Fox content.
Right.
So our ability to participate gets limited, but we got to go on site. We got to spend the week in Vegas. Amazing, absolutely amazing. And so many naysayers when Jon Jones fell out were thinking, "Oh, the UFC's in trouble. That sales and all this stuff." It's like, guys, nothing creates cash like controversy.
Correct.
This is great for business. This is bad for Daniel Cormier, but this is great for business.
Correct.
Let them do their thing.
But also, when you have Brock Lesnar on the card, nothing was
Sure.
going to shake that thing down. Like
Can't believe he won.
when Brock Lesnar, really?
Yeah. He's been sitting out for 5 years. I mean,
That is
do the
insane.
math, yeah.
It's insane. I don't think people realize how difficult that is. And I've always been critical of Brock Lesnar for a couple of things, but you can't hate on a guy for taking that.
Bigger risk and that much time
Not
off.
even that big. Well, the risk is insane, but just not participating in mixed martial arts and then fighting a top 10 guy and really was never in trouble.
Never in trouble. Yeah, top 10 guy that fought for the belt, intern belt, but fought for the belt in the last calendar year. I mean, that's pretty shocking. I thought Brock would get cleaned up and be out of there and around, and frankly, I thought he wanted to be. I didn't hear about a training camp. I didn't hear about partners that he had. I thought this was purely a cash grab. Come in, they were saying he had a floor of 12 million, a ceiling of 15. I thought, well, this is a cash grab. Come get his money. But he meant it. He came in to compete. He worked hard out. I couldn't believe he was in shape. You know, forget about the skills and the timing. Just to be able to breathe for 15 minutes.
Correct.
In a real fight, which is, you guys would know. I mean, I know that there's a difference between sparring and then obviously when you're in a real fight in the octagon. If you haven't been in that octagon for 5 years, I'd imagine your nerves and all the other stuff plays a factor in how you get fatigued.
That's why his grappling came into play so big, because wrestling's his home base. You could tell there was no sign of a jab or a right hand. That stuff was just it was just double like century. You know,
and
what I'm
I
saying?
get critical of Brock too. Brock's terrible. I mean, his skills, like in jiu-jitsu, he just got a blue belt to put that person. You start with a white,
and they blasted it out too.
Right.
Like him and a gi blue belt.
Yeah, but so he's got a blue belt in martial arts. But he's got a gold belt from back when he was the best in the world. He really defies it. Even if you watch his fight with Marquardt, you go, well, there's not a lot of skills going on here that I could go on and teach my kids. But boy, he's effective. He gets on top. He holds positions. He brings those hammers down.
I think his size, his athletic ability. Now, when you say athletic ability, and he can take 5 years off and then still beat a top 10 guy, imagine if real NFL. Remember, Brock just went through training camp.
Right.
Me and Brock have played the exact same amount of NFL games, not one. We both went to training camp. And, I was a pretty good UFC fighter.
Yeah.
Brock's obviously amazing, phenomenal. We weren't even guys in the NFL. I played as many games as everyone in there in the NFL. So did Brock.
Yeah.
And think what he's doing in the UFC. Imagine if a guy like
Ray Lewis,
Ray Lewis or LeBron James decided
Von Miller.
to try MMA. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But you've said that football, sport, and fighting have a strange
I didn't say mentality.
X factor.
I'm just saying, I'm just that X factor. I'm just saying if you had that type of athletic athlete who was like, man, forget football. I'm going to go try the UFC.
Somebody might die in the ring. If LeBron James really knew how to punch and kick,
they're just going to dominate.
Yeah.
What was your overall, you were there with all the craziness with UFC 200. What was your take on just the whole overall, like people, it was regarded as the biggest UFC of all time.
Right.
That this is the big crescendo, UFC selling. So obviously they were just boom, boom, throwing everything in the middle, all chips in.
Yeah, all the chips in. So a lot of people said it disappointed, but I think that's just a reality. When you have that much anticipation, I could compare that to a restaurant where I'm like, hey guys, you got to go try this pizza down here. It's the best one. You're going to try it. And it's just going to underdeliver. Movies do that when they're built up. I don't think this thing could have delivered or exceeded expectations because it was supposed to be the biggest of all time. So I just felt like, some of the critiques of it after the fact were a little rough on it, but I think that was to be expected. I loved it as a fan. When Anderson Silva stepped in, I hate that term moral victory. I thought he had a moral victory. He was a big winner of that night. He wasn't the victor.
DC was the loser in that.
DC was the loser in that. Yeah, and
he missed
Anderson,
a huge opportunity.
They went crazy for him. It was a cool thing. He stepped up. You had the parity of that matchup. We'd never sit around and fantasize about that match because they're in different weight classes. The parity doesn't exist. So there were so many things that made that interesting. That's just one match. Cain Velasquez, former heavyweight champion, he's opening the card.
How good did he look?
He looks
amazing.
good. He's back to...
He frankly always does. Even against Verdum, Verdum just looked a little better that night, but Cain always looks good. Yeah. He shows up and...
That might be the best I've ever seen him look. I think he heard like the naysayers and coming off the injury, and he's opening the main card, and dude, he just unleashed on Travis Brown. Yeah. They weren't even the same league.
Step back from the cage. Let's go again. I'm not going to even pin you.
They weren't even the same league.
Box it out.
He threw spinning kicks.
What was that? Who taught him that? Did Javier pull him aside one day and go, "Hey, Cain, I got a new take"? I mean, where did that come from when he threw that? Yeah, and it was perfect.
But he was also using it as almost a distraction. Here's a wheel kick, and Travis was like, "What?" And then bang, 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 and he closed it. And it was just
when you say it was a letdown, John, you don't think could live up to the hype. I disagree because I think that's what makes a guy like Conor McGregor or a fighter like Ronda Rousey so special, because Conor talks all this stuff. You're one of those. You were the original, the best trash talker in the game. And then Conor comes and he's talking all this stuff. And we're like, he can't do this. There's no way. And then he knocks Jose Aldo out in 19 seconds. And just, you could have pictured a bigger fight, more pressure, more hype, world tour, and then he knocks him out in 19 seconds. And then you're like, all right, well, yeah, that's what I paid for. Yeah. So with UFC 200, when you get these decisions and then, Misha Tate gets torched in the first round, it was, and the mat's yellow, it was just a little tough.
Sure.
I think that's where the criticism comes from.
I think that's fair. And then, even your great fights, the Daniel Cormier that we talked about with Anderson, the Brock Lesnar Hunt, they kind of drug on. There wasn't a lot of action there, but it was fun overall. I mean, it was a good energy. I was stunned that Anderson stole the show. And you can say all the nice things you want about Anderson, but he has no records when it comes to selling. No North American gate papers.
Is that right?
Never.
No.
Really?
None.
Never. Wow.
And no T-shirts. I mean, he is not historically a very big draw. And when he came in, the appreciation or the whatever it was, man, they went crazy for it. At the weigh-ins as well. They popped for Anderson, and he was even a little bit surprised.
I think DC overall took a L on that because A, he addressed the haters and he addressed the booing. B, because he was like, hey man, it's a dangerous fight. Like, he's explaining and he's talking about his game plan and why he fought safe. And he fought so safe. Even on the ground, there was no risk. Like Anderson Silva was Jacare or something. Yeah, he's a black belt, but he's not like a Jacare or one of these monsters off his back, So I just feel like out of all the people on the card who took the biggest L, besides Jon Jones, DC, like you're not gonna walk away from them and go, I can't wait to see DC fight again, man. Which sucks because he's so talented.
And you are right when he's up there explaining. One of the first rules in politics: if you're explaining, you're losing. Do not explain and don't apologize. If there's a problem, you steer into the problem. I thought he should have handled it. That crowd's booing. He should have held that belt up, thanked them for their money, and told them to shove it up their ass. I mean, it's as simple as that. But he wants to be liked so bad, and the crowd doesn't like it. You got your good guys and your bad guys. DC is a great guy. He's a great guy. He treats people right. Yeah. He's nice in his real life. He's smart. He's educated. He's hardworking. He gives you his words you can count. He's all these things, but he wants to be liked, and he tells the crowd that. Why are you booing? He'll actually say that. Why are you booing? Now we're booing.
It is puzzling,
we're
but
we're getting a reaction.
It is puzzling that he's somebody.
It's the Chris Weidman effect. It's the Chris White, like people, when you're nice and everything going for you and you don't really talk trash, and like the best thing for DC ever was this Jon Jones rivalry. Right. That's the best thing ever. Same thing with Jose Aldo. Like we didn't really, like Jose Aldo is one of the best of all time. We really didn't care till Conor McGregor came along and there's this rival and they talked all this stuff. With DC, I mean, you remember he won the heavyweight championship at Strikeforce. I mean, the guys he's beaten heavyweight is unbelievable. Oh, yeah. But again, he's so nice, and it's the same with Chris Weidman. For whatever reason, our society culture is just like, nah, I'd rather watch Jon Jones do lines of coke off this hooker's ass and whatever and do steroids. How weird is that?
It's really weird. And you can't get into a man's head, but Jon Jones has all this riding. USADA they're bulldogs and they're testing out the rump. I mean, and you said the minute you saw him take his shirt off, you knew something was up.
Every time.
Yeah.
How is that, Jim? Because when he told me he said that, I went, I don't know, man. I've been in the game a long time. The only reason I say that is because I have friends who, if they took their shirt off, you're like, come on, bro. You're on shit. And I've known these guys since I was kid.
There are some guys in that build. Yeah, I agree.
Yoel Romero, maybe. He's always.
Yoel is one of those guys.
Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir. Yeah. Yoel's a freak. But he tested positive.
He
it was
did.
a supplement, sir.
Yeah, and it was tainted.
Yeah, the Overeem meat, all that stuff. Yeah, for sure.
But they did officially clear him on that. He did 6 months, but they said, that was a true story. I'll tell you this on Jones. Here's the second part of the story, and I'll insert myself. Here's what I went through. When I got tested and I had a red flag, the substances they had were nothings. I had an estrogen blocker, what Jones says. They were nothings, and everyone was ready to forgive me. Now, the commission was going to suspend me. They had to, but Fox and the UFC, I was going to be forgiven in public opinion. What I had to live with, and that only I knew, there was another test out there that the results hadn't been back in on yet.
Damn.
I didn't know what that test was going to show, but I knew what it should have shown. I'm dealing with the PR on the first one. And I'm thinking, well, that test isn't great, I mean, that test isn't bulletproof because this is all that showed up. So let's just go with the PR move and hope the other shoe didn't drop. But I knew every night when I went to bed,
it's coming. Yeah,
probably didn't sleep very well.
Right, that's right. So with Jon Jones, this debacle we're in all relates to a test on June 16th. So I have to wonder if he's in the same shoes as me, where he's got another one or even two that are sitting out there. If he doesn't, and now they could come back.
So do you think they alerted him to the first test, saying the first test is suspect? You got 2 more tests coming. Do you think they told him that?
I don't think they told him.
I don't either.
He found out when we found out.
It doesn't work
I'm just
like
saying,
that.
I think there should be more tests at the lab, is all I'm saying. Now, they could come back fine. You'll never hear about them. In my case, they didn't. That's why I bring this up. It's not to allude to something. However, if I'm wrong, if there's no more tests out there, then USADA has some explaining to do. If you're going to tell me you took a guy who's got a track record and the last time you tested him was a month before the biggest fight of his career, then you have some explaining to do. And I found out that is the last test they've done.
They only did that test.
That's the last one they've done. Did they do prior? Maybe. But
there's
no other test out there looming.
Are you kidding me?
The last time they tested him for a world title fight was almost a month
they break the
before.
news 2 days before. That's very strange.
It's not.
They break it as soon as the info comes back.
Yeah, we went over it yesterday.
No, I know.
Because it takes so long.
They tested him back then in June. Okay.
And then it takes.
So if it took that long, my guess is they probably they went through a lot of different samples, and this was the
They
final
make sure.
conclusion.
No, they make sure before they
Here's
come
a
out.
bigger question, and you've been through this. Didn't you know, and I would imagine Jon would know, you're dealing with these USADA people. You're taking a huge risk. Didn't you know?
His was different, though. He didn't have the same testing. USADA wasn't in place when you got tested, correct?
So,
not the same, under the same circumstances.
Well, here was what happened to clear that up. The first guy ever tested by USADA out of competition was me. We didn't know that was in place. The rule was always you show up clean on fight night. You had all the speculation, but you show up clean on fight night, and that's where you do your test. When they came and tested me, I had no idea they were coming. I didn't know USADA was on board. I didn't know it was going to go to that kind of lab. But most importantly, I didn't know the timing of it. So when they came in and grabbed me, then the second guy to be tested was Vandelay. He said, no, go. But that's where
he ran away.
Off the bus.
He ran away.
He ran away. He split out the back. But that's where the wheels fell off the bus. Was just not. A guy shows up, says, "Hey, I'm with USADA. We're going in the back right now." And you're like, "Huh? Is there an option B? Is there?"
Because you knew you were pissing hot.
Oh yeah, that would be glowing. I knew it would be glowing. I mean, yeah,
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle.
Yeah, and I believe, Chael, that because they've been burned so many times, so many fights were being kind of disrupted because of this testing. This test was going to be very expensive and very thorough. They were going to test you for things that they hadn't they didn't even have the sort of money or equipment for,
right.
And they kind of pulled out all the guns for you.
That's exactly right. Yeah,
but why? My thing is, so obviously Dana and Lorenzo and those guys had to agree to this, right? With the commission?
No, this was purely athletic commission.
Yeah.
Now the UFC funds it. Back then, the commission actually stepped up and funded it. They actually paid for it themselves. This was out of nowhere. This is one. The other side of the Vandelay story that's never been told is this had never been done. So if a fighter right now refuses an USADA test and then goes, "Hey, I didn't even know who these guys were. I thought this was just come creep off the street." We all laugh at him and go, "BS." Well, at that time, the word USADA had never been brought into MMA. A random test had never been brought in. So when this guy shows up and grabs me, I'm backstage at the Mandalay Bay. He takes me into a janitor's closet, a dirty janitor's closet. Now I must present myself to him naked. This is a total stranger who would not and did not produce identification.
Wow.
I asked him for it, and I said, well, then I'm going to take a picture of you. Stop me from doing that. Now, I should have just done it anyway, but for whatever, I was caught off guard. He then, in a dirty janitor's room, puts a needle into my vein and draws blood.
That's weird.
So when he goes over to now I'm sitting there going, "Hey, there's some civil liberties here. I can't believe I just walked in the
you're
back
way
with
smarter than
this creepy
Chael.
guy." I was so caught off guard. I was just absolutely.
You also
caught
felt
off
probably
guard.
you probably knew you were a little guilty. So it's like now you're like,
That's why you would be even more
Yeah.
That's why you
suspicious.
do even more. And I was mic'd up. I was getting ready to go on Fox. I had hair, makeup, suit up. That's why I was backstage. So when he grabbed me, I was just, but I have looked back and I go, why did I test? So they go to Vandelay's, and Vandelay goes, so the report is he ran away. But the truth was he stood his ground and said, well, who are you? And the guy would not produce ID. Here's who I am. Now show me your penis. Oh, and I'm going to put a needle into your vein. And Vandelay's going, call my attorney. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Guy goes, no, you're going to sign here and you're going to do this
No
test.
way.
And Vandelay's like, first off, I don't sign anything without it. See, Vandelay's side of this, he never got calm and told it. He got pissed off and yelled. He knew he was guilty anyway. But if he would have just calmly told his side that a stranger showed up to my gym with no ID, demanded to see my penis, and then was going to poke me in the arm with a
crazy.
needle that I guess is clean. And you could only, and I don't make fun of this guy. I mean, he's out there trying to feed his family, but you could only imagine the kind of character that raises his hand and goes, hey, this is what I want to do for a living. I want to go around and collect urine and fly
called
around
a government
the country.
bureaucrat who, you know, that is an interesting
character.
It's also a very interesting thing about government oversight in some ways. I mean, you've got a sort of a commission, a government sanctioned commission, or maybe a state sanctioned commission. There isn't a lot of accountability, and typically or historically, those kinds of people, all due respect to people who enforce the law, but people who do that, you can get people who are on a power trip, who say, show me your dick, I'm going to poke you, and I don't have to show you any kind of ID.
That's kind of the exception.
It probably is.
The thing is the obviously PEDs were rampant in the sport.
Yeah.
Fighters were dropping out. There was some weird stuff.
Well, they were, yeah.
So I think something had to be done. Do I think USADA is good for the sport? forget what I think, Chael. Chael, do you think USADA is best for the sport?
Yeah, it is. Clean sport is important. And, even dirty sport, when we had it, it wasn't a matter of trying to get an edge. It was a matter of trying to level the playing field. You know what's going on. The guys are tired. It's like, okay, I don't like getting up at 5 in the morning and running for several miles, but if I find out my opponent does it, now I got to go do it. And some of that is justification. That's true, but it was also the reality. It's like, look, I'm getting ready to take on Vitor. I know everything that's going on here. I'm not going to end up on the highlight reel if I don't have to. So I'm going to match fire with fire. This is the flawed logic, but this was the logic. And so USADA comes and they bring in clean sport, but they are so far out of their lane on some of this stuff. I mean, there's Advil. You got to be kidding me. Well,
you can't take Advil.
No. If you get a cold, you can't take common cold medicine.
You can't take NyQuil or anything. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Why is that?
It's on the ban list. It's not a performance-enhancing list. That's
No, but is it because it could mask other drugs, maybe?
Maybe.
Because technically, an anti-inflammatory is a type of steroid. Apparently, like cortisone, like Advil is considered.
If you took mass amounts, but it's kind of silly.
I wonder though if that's chemically because it's a masking. I don't know.
And they don't say either. That's one of the ways they stay ahead. Is USADA holds their information.
But so you guys train. I've seen how hard you guys train, and when you get into your 30s. Trying to recover when you have to run, when you have to wrestle, when you have to kick and punch, when you're lifting weights, your body breaks down. So we know that a lot of guys take steroids and stuff like that because it helps with recovery, because you can train harder and all that. But if you can't even take anti-inflammatories.
You can't take cold medicine. BJ Penn's out right now for an IV. IV is not a substance. It's a form of administration. And they deemed that what he took through the IV was legal. He just took too much of it. That's a tough one.
How crazy is that?
That's a tough one for me.
They're almost too strict.
But maybe
where it's hurting the sport.
Yeah, or
they're kind of hurting it a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know.
I would be interested if this was tested in court. If I was to go to the hospital right now, take the advice of a doctor, it could be an emergency situation. And now these guys are telling me that my livelihood's gone, that I violated them. So they're saying I have to listen to you in front of listening to a doctor. I think that they would have some exposure there if that was ever tested.
I agree. Chael, you out of anyone would kind of know what Jon's going through right now. Did you feel he was sincere in that press conference? No, you're good, man.
Good.
Right.
You're good, brother.
Moving around this table.
You're good, man.
You're looking good.
Okay, so here's the thing.
Did you? Because a lot of times Jon's criticism came from not just being himself. Right. And you see it's an act usually, and then you see that press conference. I bought it at times and I didn't at others.
Sure. So the press conference was very interesting. He called that. He wasn't under subpoena to be there. The way this would normally work when you're in trouble is you bury your head in the sand, you try to outrun this thing, you get with your legal team, you get your version of the story you're prepared to tell, you get sworn in, you say your piece, and you go home. That's how it usually works. He shows up at a press conference that he didn't have to be at, and he took questions. Now, he broke every PR rule you had, but you had to stand back and go, well, that took a certain amount of courage. He walked through the lobby. He walked through the hotel with fighters yelling at him. He sat down in front of the media. He didn't have a prepared statement and exit stage left. He just sat down and took questions. That's not what a guilty guy does. Now, he is guilty, but the question is he guilty on intent? And that's all we all really care about. Was Jon trying to get over? Or did Jon take something that just happened to be on the ban list? Make your own decision there. But the one thing with Jon, guys, is it is never his fault. And he's always sitting down and he's saying the same routine over and over. I don't know why this is God's will. I don't know why he's put me in this spot. I'll come out stronger. And then he wants you to embrace him and go, man, hey, hang in there, kid.
God has a plan.
You weren't a hit and run. You did the hitting and you did the running. You get jammed.
And you did the coming back to get your money. Yeah. And then you did the running again.
But then he gave that then too. I don't know why God, I don't know why this is the plan, but I'm going to have to deal with the chips I've been dealt me. Like he found out that he's got leukemia or something. That he's the victim here. He gets jammed up in a coke bust. He doesn't say a guy, slipped me something. He says, I'm at a party in Brazil. I rolled up 100. I went down to the table. But then he became the victim. And then now we're sitting in this spot, not only two banned substances. And the problem with Jon is historically he has piled on guys. The second their name comes out in one of these things, he's piling on.
Is that true?
You need to change your life, find God, this whole routine, everything that a guy covering up tries to say. Now, what's interesting is I'm one of the guys he piled on. I'm not ready to pile on him. I'm looking at it going, well, there is some confusing stuff in the test. You're guilty. You need to man up. You need to say, I agree with the science, I agree with the rules, and I'm going to sit.
Yeah.
not go up there and make this big show. But Jon is always piled. He's the first one. He doesn't listen to extenuating circumstances. He couldn't spell the words extenuating circumstances. And he buries guys. But guys aren't doing that back to him. They go, well, Jon, let's hear your side of it.
Well, his side of it, though, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, and you were talking about this. He was popped for estrogen blockers. Isn't that pretty damning? I mean, this is not like a weird, I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I don't know anything about it. But my guess is when you take a testosterone, whatever my derivative, whatever it might be.
Artificial testosterone,
you have to take estrogen blockers. Isn't that pretty damning? I don't know.
That is why that's on the ban list. An estrogen blocker, it's blocking something, it's not adding. But USADA says, look, if you're coming off a cycle, you got to go on these blockers. I used to have to take estrogen blockers when I was doing testosterone. They said, listen, it's a way for us to catch you after the fact. Maybe you pulled the testosterone or whatever, the deck, or whatever you were pulling. Maybe you pulled that over on us, but we can get you after the fact on this. That's their argument. That's not to say there's not other things and reasons you would have estrogen blockers. Jon is a very horny guy, and if you take dick pills of various forms, they could have estrogen blockers in them. I assure you, whatever the reason, he's been Googling it and will come up with his story at the appropriate time. But that's probably the path they'll go down. At the end of the day, sure, it's cheating. Jon's sitting up there and going, well, I didn't cheat. Well, cheating is a wide spectrum. And for me, it comes to intent, but that's not what the definition is. If you took a banned substance, you tried to fight with it, you cheated.
Yeah.
So you think it's a possibility, and I see the rumors circulating like crazy out there, is he was taking like a fake kind of like 5-hour energy erection drink. And there's estrogen blockers in there. There's also testosterone in there.
So that's illegal.
That's the rumor, yeah.
Right.
But they are illegal.
So let me just.
Does that make sense?
It does.
So let's say,
Yeah.
would you look at, let's say in a perfect world for Jon's world, he's suspended either way.
Yeah.
So he's screwed, and we'll get back to that. But in a perfect world, Jon goes, listen, man. Granted, he's married with kids. That's a whole nother thing. But he goes, listen, man, I was taking these basically horny drink shots, and they have testosterone and estrogen blockers. I had no idea.
Yeah.
I had a wild night. They tested me. What's up?
So here's what I would say. I would say, Jon, since when we went through the numbers, let's just low end say, if you get caught, you know. We already know that there are people like Yoel Romero got popped and stopped for taking certain
tainted supplement.
Right.
His was a little
and
different.
we know that USADA is
Chael's right.
very sensitive with their equipment, and we know that they have a long list that goes on and on that you can't take. You can't even take Advil. Having said that, you're about to fight this huge fight, and in the next 2 years, you stand to make probably $10 million. $10 million. Maybe even after taxes.
Way more
I don't
than
know.
that, yeah.
Okay. But let's just start with 10, which seems like a lot of money. Okay. So, Jon, why are you drinking these strange energy drinks?
No, I'm saying he didn't know though, B. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
so how's the public going to look at him if he came out and was like, all right, here's the thing. I drank these freaking sex drinks and I had a wild night. I didn't do any drugs. I had no idea what was in them. I'm spending 2 years. That's probably best case scenario.
That's right. That's right. And he'll sit down at Google. He'll figure out where these things come from. That's how he'll do it, and he'll come up with his story. We'll never know what really happened there. At the end of the day, we don't need to. He's got 2 banned substances.
Gun to your head, Chael. Gun to your head, Brennan. As fighters, this guy's been in this. Gun to your head. And not to throw it down the bridge. I got a gun to your head. Did he take steroids or did he not take steroids?
Banned substances. Yeah.
All right.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, banned
100%.
substances.
And this is the thing, though, Chael. Do you think it tarnishes his legacy for
It's
pound for
hard
pound
to
grades?
say.
Because the public, we're balls deep in mixed martial arts, and you had an amazing career. We analyzed all these fights. We know the game inside and out. My dad called me and was like, damn, I can't believe Jon's been using steroids this whole time. Makes sense, though. That's the
Right.
public.
Yeah, it is.
The public in general is going, oh, yeah, he's been using steroids. That's why he's so great.
Sure. And they'll be right to an extent. You know, again, we're inserting the word steroids. We just mean, banned substances.
PDs.
But, yeah,
Excuse me.
PDs. But to your question, is it going to affect him? Anderson Silva just came off a suspension. He was the hero of the weekend, both with the company and with the media and with us post facto. And he just came off actual steroids. He didn't just have banned substances. He had a imprisonable Class C felony. If you were caught with it in America, they'd put you in handcuffs.
Really?
Steroid. He had the worst of the worst of the worst. Sat for 12 months, had a couple of
It's so weird how people just. I guess it's not weird. It's our nature. You forgive them, but
America's all about second and third acts. America's always been about second and third acts.
But with Jon Jones, and this is why I said on yesterday's podcast was, how many times can we forgive him? I think, when he pulled out of Canada, when you pulled out of the fight, and he was like, I'm not fighting anyone else, and they canceled the card or whatever. People were like, Jesus Christ, man. And then hit and run, pregnant lady breaks her arm, blah, blah, blah. We forgive him. He came back. And then this time, there has to be a certain point, I think, where society goes, all right, man, we're done.
You know what, though? America loves redemption. And take a look at Mike Tyson. Went away for rape, bit somebody's ear off, and now he is a guy everybody... Try getting him on your show and see how in demand he is. Sure. He's so in demand. So Americans
but their careers are over.
Well, yeah, I think that it's a question of how he deals with this, how he reacts to this.
I think he has to be real.
How sorry he is.
His number, and that's always been my knock on Jon. You know Jon. I've trained with Jon. He should just accept being the heel, being the dark knight, being the dark joker.
Right.
Fuck everyone. This is me. I party all night. I'll come into the gym. I'll beat everybody up in here. I did a two-week camp for Ryan Bader. Beat the shit out of him. Easiest payday I've ever had. What's up?
Well, Chael,
I'm the best of all time. Do something.
You said,
instead of I see him on ESPN and he's in a blazer and some khakis. I'm like, what the fuck? What is this?
Right.
And he looked like a social study teacher in 8th grade. I'm like, what is he doing?
Right.
What the hell is this?
Because you said before all this, and I don't know that he was doing. He certainly wasn't nearly as muscular as he is now. And you said that when you fought him, he was so strong, you wanted out of there in the first 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And you watched him, and you didn't even see him train once. My question is, when he was that successful, doing kind of not training nearly as much, not lifting a lot, coming in there and just destroying dudes, why decide now that you're going to start, getting on banned substances to get that edge? It's almost like he didn't need that edge.
Well, that's where the question comes.
Was he always on?
Right. People will go, you were so good, you didn't need that stuff. And then the smart people will go, oh, you were so good because you were on that stuff. That's where the balance comes in. But ultimately, people, they will forgive and forget. He's just in a tough spot. He's never forgiven anybody. He's the first to bury people. People talk about rock bottom for Jon, man. We're not there yet. The stuff that goes on,
not even close.
Hasn't been caught for.
Yeah, we're not even close.
Yeah, man, we're not even getting
rock bottom.
Right.
Yeah, we're at the tip of the iceberg right now.
You know what?
There's a bomb that goes goo-doo.
I love with you guys because you're in the game. You know him. You know the stories, and I love how you're kind of all both sort of talking around the subject.
It's guy code. You can't.
Of course. I respect it.
But Chael, you're the only guy probably in the world, because you were a superstar, man, and then boom, suspended, off Fox, all that's gone.
Yeah.
You're the best analyst in the game, all that's gone, no fights. So you know what Jon's going through. What a sane person right now, I think Jon is. I'm assuming he's like, holy shit, I messed up. I have to change.
Let me call Chael. Chael, help me.
You would think, look, he can't get there. He wants to cling to whatever this fake idea of himself is. And this isn't even meant to be on a knock on Johnson. It's just try to be a reality in this situation. To what you just said a minute ago, Brendan, look, he's facing 2 years. There's no way around it. He can have all the excuses and they can believe him. He's got to sit for 2 years if he took banned substances under the new rules in Nevada. It would serve him. The truth is always on your side, and it would serve him to come out and say, I did this and this, the timing was down, bad advice, whatever, but just tell the truth. Doing I took addiction. He's on Google finding out where this stuff's at, and then reworking his story. It's like, Jon, stop, just stop. Because this isn't the last time you stub your toe. That's what we said on the last one, the one before that, the one before. It's not. You haven't even been jammed up in the stuff you really don't want to be jammed up in yet. It's not the last time you're going to stub your toe. So he's sitting 2 years either way. Come out and be real with people. He's trying to make himself the victim. It's like, Jon, this is disgusting. You are the toughest dude in the world.
Yeah.
Physically. You can't say the truth? I mean, come on. That takes a limited amount of courage compared to some of the other stuff
is there any way to appeal this 2-year ban?
No.
None.
No, not with those tests. It's 2 years, B. He's fucked.
That's it.
Do you think he comes back and everything's all good and he's pound for pound the greatest and this story goes on? Then obviously he'll have his hiccups.
Yes.
Or is it you do?
Yeah, I think that's
because he's missing the 2 glory years for sure.
For sure.
29, 30 years old.
Yeah.
He's in his prime.
Mm-hmm. And to you asked a minute, is there any way around it? There is. Tim Means and Yoel saw it, where if they can prove tainted supplement, they will forgive you a little bit. Now, there's a lot that goes into that. You not only have to provide your supplement that you have, but you could have doctored that at home. They will go to the store, they'll buy everything off the shelf, they'll run it through their labs. It's expensive, but if they can prove, hey, that's a tainted supplement, intent does matter to these guys. The supplement company in question, and Jon named him at the press conference, came out instantly.
That's where he messed up.
This isn't us. And if you want to go head-to-head, we will prove this isn't us. So that one's off the board. So now he's got to come back to, well, look, I took this dick drink, and I didn't know. Fair enough, you still took it, and there's 2 banned substances.
See,
so
that's where he messed up. When you said him doing that press conference is unheard of, when you get with a lawyer, they're going to say, don't list a name of the company. Let us do our research. We'll come up with a brand or a supplement that these do have in it, and then we'll attack them. But for you to come out and say a brand, well, all right, that's off the table.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's just a bad. The game plan there is a bad idea.
Right. And again, he didn't bring up this erection thing at the press conference. No, he's not under oath there. This is why you don't want to go. I hate to bury him for anything he said there because I appreciate that he was even there. But the bottom line is this is why you shut your mouth. This is why you have the right to remain silent. And he was very clear to say, I have not taken anything new that I haven't taken my entire career. As soon as he cracked that egg, he realized what he had done. He quickly tried to run it back. Goes, oh, well, I do have a new supplement company. I've taken a few of their things. And people are like, well, what? A few of their things. And he tried to leave it at that. But if he would have brought up right then, actually, I party all night long. I'm still doing the coke. Haven't popped for that again. Thank you very much. And then my penis doesn't work, so I took a shot of this, and it looks like now I'm jammed up. Okay. Then
why weren't you there doing the talking?
Then we're on board. Then we're on board.
Then we're on board. Oh, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, man, shit happens. Okay. All right, you're still the best in the world.
That's right.
There are a lot of challenges. Like Brennan was floating the idea to change subjects just a little bit. Brennan was saying, there are a couple of challenges for the UFC to retain viewership or to at least grow viewership. And one is that it's very hard for a champion to stay a champion, not just because of USADA testing and stuff, but also because, and this is my theory, because the gloves are so small, because striking is getting so good, because you have a team that's looking and watching at all the things you tend to do, and somebody can come in and neutralize that, and you got to keep changing. It feels as though you make one mistake, you get caught once with a good shot, like Rafael dos Anjos.
Sure.
Yeah. That is not necessarily good for viewership when titles keep switching hands, because we can't really hold on to our champions. Conor McGregor, Ronda Rousey, all these guys that we love to think, this is my invisible, I'm behind this guy. Do you think that those kinds of things were brought into account when the Fertitta brothers and Dana decided to sell? Was it because they think they've kind of reached their saturation point and this is as big as the sport can get?
Because in
they can't solve those problems?
That's a great question. Because and before you answer, Chael, because in 2015, their biggest year ever. And then you look at 2016, they had to pull the Brock Lesnar card for 200, which is crazy. And then Conor lost. Ronda got kicked in the face talking about suicide. And then, Jon Jones. So I feel like it was all chips in. That's how I feel.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's real. Vince McMahon looked at buying the UFC at one point, and when Vince was going to buy it, he was just going to close it down and take it out of the pay-per-view space, kind of like the UFC did to Pride. They were just going to take it off the shelf.
Smart man.
And Vince said, look, I can't run, and the best promoter ever, it's not Don King or... It's Vince McMahon.
By far.
He's promoting a fake product, and he's selling out arenas multiple times a week. Vince said, you cannot create a star unless you can control the outcome, and therefore the UFC will never make it. Now, the UFC, I think, saw that early, and they started branding those 3 letters as opposed to specific fighters, so that they have managed to succeed. But that was Vince's hang-up with it. And if it comes to promotion and Vince McMahon says it, it's gospel. So to your point, yes, it matters. It matters that 21 months ago, Anthony Pettis was on the Wheatie box, and now he's ranked number 14 in the world and left the weight class. That's not a knock on Pettis. It just speaks to how competitive this is. If you're Ronda, if you're Misha,
Johnny Hendricks.
Shocking. Now he doesn't even wrestle anymore. 2-time national wrestling champion. He goes and he doesn't even wrestle. But if you're Ronda, if you're anybody that wins the belt, your schedule changes. All of a sudden, everybody wants to be your friend. All of a sudden, you got a few extra dollars in your pocket for entertainment. All of a sudden, the media schedule changes. And Conor came out and spoke about that publicly. And he goes, I got to the top of the bill by working my ass off in the gym. I can't do that anymore. I'm no longer on top of my game. This is more important to me than being famous. But these other athletes, again, we're going to see the musical chairs with the Weidmans and the Rock Cults, and we'll see what Bisping does here, because they're traveling all over promoting these things. And it's a game of inches, man. You can do the math. Whoever's in the gym more generally wins on Saturday night, generally.
Wow. So do you feel like, see, I said what Dana and the Fertittas did with the UFC, you know, the investment of originally $2 million and selling for $4 billion, amazing. Brilliant stuff. Doesn't get much bigger. But as far as growing the UFC, and I've always said this, I've said this for years, they're going to have to sell to someone who's going to run it like a business to hand off. I think Dana and the Fertittas I don't think anyone did what they did. It was amazing. But to get to the next level, then you got to kind of hand the reins to someone else. Go, all right, now you guys take it from here. I think that's what they're doing. I just feel like with the selling of the UFC, there's going to be some major changes. And I was thinking about this last night because I was excited you were coming in. I was thinking about the union. I want to talk about the union with you, the fighters union, stuff like that. If they're going to do it, now's the time. I was thinking about it last night. The people who aren't talking about the union are the fighters. It's not, and you know, I've been critical of Dana. I actually really like the guy. I've been super critical of him, but it's not his job to create a fighters union. His and the Fertittas' job was to grow the UFC to $4 billion. What the fighters decide to do, they do. If they really wanted a union, you'd have Ronda, Conor, Brock, Anderson, Chael, Weidman, Rockhold, all of them go, we're not fighting till we figure this out, man. There's no cards. We're not doing anything. No fighter ever did that. So I was laying in bed last night. I'm like, well, we talked about this fighters union. I've talked about it till I've been blue in the face, but no one's talking about it. The fighters aren't doing it, obviously because of repercussions, but there's going to be some risk, man. But if you want to change, you guys have to do something about it.
I would suggest that the union is going to be started. The reason fighters are planning on talking about this is because it seems like a mountain they can't climb. It's just such a, like, how do you even start one? But I think the answer is this. I think, and you had alluded to it before, what the managers have to do, but more importantly, a union is going to be started by class action lawyers. It's going to be started by lawyers. Lawyers are going to say, and that's their job. You're going to have lawyers who say, and it might be somebody who represents a fighter, but somebody's going to say, you know what, there's an opening here. This is how you organize.
But there's always been an opening. My thing, I was thinking about last night because I was thinking about points I was going to talk about with you because you've always been super pro UFC. I remember when Reebok came out, we were texting, and when you were pro Reebok, I was like, fucking believable. Chael loves Reebok, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And it kind of pissed me off.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God. And then I had to put you on ice for a couple of months. But then I was thinking about this union.
You sit in Portland, man.
That's right.
I was thinking about this union. I'm like, dude, and the no fighter's really done anything. We talk about all the time. There has to be change. Dana's like, cool, do something.
Right.
I'm not holding you guys back. I sold for $4 billion. I'm a businessman. I make matchups. That's it.
Yeah.
I made $4 billion. See ya.
Yeah.
Do what you want to do.
Look, it's as simple as you don't have to get a union and the paperwork and the vote and the whole bit together. Here's what you do. Every fighter agrees. This is it. We let our contracts run out. That's it. If you have 5 fights, you do 5 fights, you don't re-sign. Everybody, let your contracts run out. And when it's out, you test the market and you re-sign. That's a big problem. If your contract's Rory McDonald's in the same spot. And if everybody did that in and of itself would form a bit of an association, a union where guys would start to have bargaining chips and come to the table. It's the re-signing of the contracts in advance. Good business by the UFC. Not good business by the fighters, but that just changing that one aspect would change the whole thing.
But you mentioned free market. What free market? Bellator?
Yeah.
ONE FC? There's no, like,
FC,
when you see free market, World Series of Fighting, which you commentate for, let's be real. Like, I love Bellator and they have all the money in the world, but it's just not the same.
I gotcha. Yeah, but I mean, that's how it's going to build. You know, that's the other side of it from the business standpoint with the UFC. They're going, listen, we're paying multiple times what the market is. And they go, well, you guys have a monopoly. And then they come back and go, to get a promoter's license, you fill out a 1-page form and pay $100. There's no barrier.
Well, the other thing, though, is it's not necessarily a bad thing if to have one big show, which is the UFC, because if you think about boxing, there are a lot of different belts, and one of the biggest bummers is that you can't have great fighters fight because the two divisions are not talking to each other.
Boxing's not a league, though.
Right.
Like the UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championship is a league, really. They want to look like the NFL. They want to look like the NBA. They want to have Reebok. They want to have the Octagon look like the NASCAR. And then that money doesn't go to the fighters. Okay, that's fine. But then if you want to be a league, well, then you got to treat it like a league, and you have to take certain steps.
Yeah.
And again, I was thinking, and I can't fault Dana from this, because if the three of us were running it, I mean, I'd be like, yeah, let's just wait for them to do something. We keep making money, man. Let's just do this. We'll keep making the certain steps to make it look like the NFL or NBA until they say something. We're just keep doing what we're doing.
Yeah, that's the bottom line. Yeah, if you're running a business, that's what you do. And then, I'll tell you, when I first fought in the UFC was 2005. That's only a decade ago. The minimum pay, and I was on the minimum pay, was $2,000 a show and $2,000 to win. Now minimum pay is $8,000 a show, $8,000 to win. I can't name another industry for you, particularly a sports industry, but any industry, McDonald's, I mean, you name it. I can't name anything from the bottom to the top that's gone up 4 times over the last decade. And they did that on their own. They could still pay guys 2 and 2, and not one guy's go, I'm not coming to the UFC. They on their own have escalated percentage-wise.
Yeah.
And 8-8 may not still be a big chunk of the bank account, but percentage-wise, they're up 4 times.
It's just I don't know
Yeah,
how you
but
fight.
that's
I don't know
not
how you
fair,
fight
though,
on
Chael.
16.
You know what I'm saying? If let's say it's worth $4 billion, that's what $4 billion, and you look at that 8 and 8 minimum, that's insane.
How do you live on that? How do you live on that?
Yeah,
It's less
perhaps
than
it wasn't fair, but they have escalated on their own. What I'm saying is, even without competition, this will be their defense, right? They're in a lawsuit right now, but this will be a big part of their defense. So go, even without competition, even without the free market, we've cannibalized our own contracts,
sure.
and we're up 400% in the last decade. Just show me one other industry that's done that. If you want to talk to us, go talk to every other industry out there and see what they're paying.
I think it's going to come down to the fact that you've got to figure out a way to make your product. Like if you train for, I don't know, 6 months, you have, let's say, how many fights do you have a year? Usually 2, 3. Do that
2
math.
if you're a big deal.
Do that math. I don't know that fighters can afford even gas money.
Well, no, they can't. It's a job. It's a job. You know what I'm saying? Like it's still for those guys on the undercard, it's a job. It's no different than working at Starbucks or working here.
But
at
it'd be
Fox
$24
Sports.
grand a year if you lost. If you won, it'd be more than that. It's just a tough way to.
It's tough.
After taxes
It's the
and
hurt
paying
business.
It's the hurt business. And so my point is that I guess there's going to be
the issue is the outliers. I don't mean to cut you. The issue is the outliers because you see Forbes top paid athletes. Holy shit, Connor's number 36.
Right.
Ronda's number 50. So people see that and they're like, oh, UFC's making bank. It's like, oh.
Well, I think the conversation in what is the number, what is the percentage that's going to have a better return on our investment? You got to pay, you got to have an incentive structure for good athletes to get into fighting. You want the best athletes in the UFC. There's going to be a percentage, there's going to be a number that gives you that return on that investment. That's just capitalism.
Chael, if they came to you and said, all right, whatever, we sold the UFC to AMG, where the hell they are. We want you to be president. What changes would you make? Did you make many?
And see, this is what I think is so interesting is you've got these guys that came in. They pay what I feel is an exorbitant price. I don't know the numbers because I could evaluate a company. I've taken the classes on that. But it's got to be a public company where you see the numbers. We don't know the actual numbers. So people are estimated they paid 15 times value. Most acquisitions would pay 2.5 times value. If you have something as unique as this, you might get a bank, maybe, or a hedge fund to pay up to 4 times value. They're estimated to have paid 15 times value, which my point is they didn't. So the real numbers on the UFC, the real numbers when you have sponsorships, and you know, we all know about the Fox deal because that's a public company, but Globo is actually privately held in Brazil, so we don't know those numbers, but we hear they make the Fox deal look small, and it was for $1 billion spread over 7 years. So. Wow. $700 million over 7 years. So, at any rate, the point I'm making is they saw the real numbers. They took a look at this, and then you never buy a business unless you think you can make it grow. You don't build it to keep it stagnant. You don't build it to downsize. You build it to make it grow. When I close my eyes, I think of myself as a creative guy. I don't know where you go with it. We're in all 50 states. We're in 5 of the 7 continents. We're having 53 shows this year. There's only 52 weeks in the year. I'm scratching my head going, I don't know what to do. If you study... the UFC has never made a move that Vince didn't make first. Lorenzo came out and said as much. Lorenzo came out, did a sit down and said, listen, we looked at different franchises. We looked at, from the Yankees to the Mets, and we decided we want to copy the WWE's business model. So everything from the live gates, from buying up all the small regional shows and just shutting them down, taking their talent, going to the network. I mean, X, Y, and Z, Vince did it first. UFC does.
Fight Pass, all that.
All of that.
All that's WWE.
The network, all of that stuff. Point being, if I was trying to guess where the UFC was going to go next, up until the new owners, I could just go and see what Vince was doing, and then UFC was going to do it, and they were open about that. We're copying these guys. I don't know what the new guys are going to do. I don't know what their vision is. They obviously have one. Everybody wants to talk about China. Well, it's not as easy as that, man. It's just not as simple as that. That's something that guys that want to pretend to be smart go, whoa, you get into China. Shut up. Just shut up with all that. So what are they going to do? I don't know.
They're pretty
I'm
saturated
to find out.
But, and this is what I was talking about with Rogan is you also don't buy a company and say, yeah, just keep doing what you're doing. Just like you said, you're going to make changes. There's no way you buy a company and say, yeah, Dana, just keep doing what you're doing. You're going to have your own ideas, and there's going to be egos involved. Eventually, you're going to want a different president in there. Eventually, you're going to want your people in there.
Sure. Well, and if they push too hard on Dana with changes, he's going to walk. Because that's
bring the mic a little closer.
Yeah, he's not going to get told what to do.
Never.
He does not want that, all the way down to being an executive producer, the way that it's presented to the audience, not just the internal stuff in the business. He has a vision for how he wants done. He didn't team up with Fox or anybody. For the longest time, they were really looking for a network partner. They had suitors come to the table, but they wanted the executive producer rights, and Dana said, we're not doing it. We're doing it my way. And it turned out he was right. His way was right. But if somebody comes in and tries to start, I imagine they've already got these kinks worked out. I don't think this will happen. But I was just saying...
But he's a minority owner.
Yeah, that's right.
So the majority owners go, huh?
Right.
No, we bought it.
If push came to shove, they win the argument.
100%.
But it'll be a board.
But they're not going to keep
it'll probably, because there's so many different investors, I'd imagine that they create a board of directors. And that board of directors, and Dan would probably be on that board of directors, and that board of directors has a Democratic vote. Sure. So they look at all the data and all the analytics.
Ask Steve Jobs how that worked out. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like you might have a vision, but they bought it and brought people in for
they can get rid of you. Oh, yeah. They can kind of go.
I think it's good and bad because I think the passion from Dana is what brought it to where it's at, and his relentless pursuit and all this stuff. It also hurt the sport, how he ran it like a boys' club, and him and his two best friends from high school made decisions, and some people would get bonuses, some people would get cars, some people were main events. He was very close with certain fighters, not with other fighters. So you don't see other leagues doing that. So I think it's going to progress. How? I have no idea. Same with you. When I close my eyes, I have no idea.
Right.
Internationally, yeah.
I'm curious, man. It's going to be fun. I'm really
They need stars, though.
Yeah.
The thing is, and that's where it slips into entertainment a little bit. And I know you're a huge WWE fan, but you rise and dies off stars. Like if Conor McGregor goes to Bellator, he's pulling in huge numbers. Look at Kimbo. So you have to have these megastars. Who I could not.
And I think
Sage Northcutt. Name a young guy who's big right now. I
think that's where. Yeah, exactly.
Heavyweight, the minimum age is 36.
Right.
That's weird.
And I think Ari Emanuel's going to have a big. I think that must be his vision, right? He runs Hollywood. He knows how to make stars. He's got that must be his vision to make these guys even bigger and bring in even bigger numbers.
Which means put them in movies, different entertainment.
And we've seen how that works out. Then they don't come back.
Yeah,
and you get kicked in the face.
Sure.
Yeah, and again, you're back to the same problem, which is the musical chairs. The sport is a game of inches. You make one mistake, you go to sleep, and you lose your belt. And as guys get better, and those gloves are that small, that's always a possibility. It feels like with boxing, the gloves are bigger. People can weather those storms. I don't know, man. It's a tough problem to solve. I think the guys with the last laugh might very well be the Fertittas and Dana White. They sold
they already got
$4 billion.
Yeah. No, there's no last laugh.
Like you said, how do you
when you have $4 billion, there's no last laugh.
Yeah.
They fucking won.
And that'll keep their other $4 billion company that they already
the hotels.
Had. So
yes.
That'll keep that money company and friendly. But yeah, I mean, good for them. It's a pretty cool story. But I am very curious. What is these guys' vision and where are they going to go? I'm a huge fan. I like to sit back and see it, and it created an industry. We're all sitting here today because there's an industry because 100%. Of that. And it's fascinating. It's fascinating, and it's good to know, especially if we're in our kind of shoes, where you're trying to latch on and be part of that still. You got to know where they're headed, and we have no idea.
You know what I think, Chael?
Tell me.
And I've had an educated meeting with some guys who are in the business as far as who sold to the UFC. I think you're going to see a similar platform how the NFL is, where you're going to see some fights on Fox, you're going to see some fights on ESPN. when the contract's up. I think you're going to see it cross promote where you're going to have pay-per-views and then you have a split where it's just not on one network.
Wow. And you think the networks would go for that?
I think so.
Wow. Not get exclusive rights. That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd go for that.
Same way the NFL just gives it even more maximum
Yeah, more
exposure.
scope,
ESPN, is involved more.
Let me ask you to predict some things. I was really impressed with the way Cain Velasquez looked when he fights Stipe Miocic. What do you think?
Yeah, that's
Where's your
interesting.
money?
Cain is the most intimidating guy on the roster, period. And a lot of it's because
True.
his name's Cain. He looks scared hell. But the fact that he doesn't get tired, he comes forward, he throws. He's just an intimidating guy. Stipe is an exceptional athlete. He's a good-looking heavyweight, right? He's the right size, the right build. He moves really well. He boxes. Stipe's going to have problems with Overeem.
He has to get through
Just
Overeem, which is
He's going to have problems with Overeem.
He fights
He's got
Overeem
matchups.
next.
Yeah, I know that.
So for the world title,
I guess
that's a huge. I don't know if he gets through, and for whatever reason, and Stipe is a good buddy, training partner of mine for a long time, but the Overeem's a tough fight for him.
I guess I'm not taking that into account.
You definitely need to.
Yeah.
Yeah. He might be the underdog in that fight.
He
Stipe?
could be.
Yeah.
Here's an intangible I'll throw at you.
I love doing this to Brendan.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because he's like, excuse me?
I'll throw you an intangible, though, and I picked Stipe in his last fight. He was a big underdog against Verdum. He's fighting in Verdum's hometown. If you're a betting man, you got to look at outside things. Stipe does his best work on the road.
Yeah.
His best performances have been when he's traveling and he's dealing with the jet lag and no pressure and everybody hates him for whatever reason.
Baseball life.
Statistically, that's true, though. He's fighting Overeem in Cleveland. I don't like that.
I don't like it either.
I don't like it
I'd rather him
at
fight him
all.
in the Netherlands.
That's right. Go anywhere else.
Anywhere
but not
else.
5 miles from
I
his
agree.
living room.
I agree.
And that matters. As silly as it sounds, it matters.
And I'm sorry to ask a dumb question because I know what your answer is going to be. You're saying that Overeem, I know he's a K1 champ and everything, you're saying he's a better striker? And if so, what does that mean? Because I'm so impressed with Stipe's boxing.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is just my layman's perspective. Every time Overeem tries to throw any kind of a kick, he's going to get cracked in the grill.
He hasn't been kicking a lot. I mean, he's on a crazy win streak, man. He's beat some really tough guys. So
yeah,
it's over
surprisingly.
him.
Yeah, some of them surprisingly, because you never know with Overeem. And again,
don't.
if you're a study,
Especially with
man,
USADA.
Yeah, that's right, with USADA.
Which is weird because he's using his technique now.
That's right. And then you look at the first round. He's a real first round guy. Good, bad, or indifferent. He usually stays within that first frame. His last fight, he stumbled into the second round, got a knockout there. It's just interesting. Overeem's real up and down, and right now he's up. And frankly, with USADA in there, it made Overeem a little bit smaller, but it made him a little bit quicker. It almost helped him for that first round fight.
It helped him not to be a meathead because technically he's the best striker in the UFC. You look at the credentials, best striker in the UFC. He was such a meathead. Like when he fought Brock Lesnar, he could have won Mr. Olympia.
Sure.
Like he was just so big. There wasn't a lot of technique. Well, now he's a lot thinner. He knows he has the skills. He uses the skills. He's more, light-footed. It's good, man.
Yeah.
He's trouble.
I was really impressed with the way Aldo looked. I can't wait for that.
This is what's weird for me, Joe. I took so much shit because I went, well, now that USADA's here, we're not going to see many Brazilian champs. And before UFC 200, there was none.
Sure.
They all lost.
Yeah.
I took so much shit for that. People were so upset. I was fucking right.
Yeah, you were right.
I was right.
And one gym specifically.
Yes.
Jose's gym and Hindenburg. Yeah, that gym.
They held a press conference talking shit about me.
Right.
How weird is that?
Yeah, but I mean, that gym specifically has lost their fights, their champs, their time. I mean, yeah.
You can just see the difference in people's bodies now. You really can. And I'm not going to mention names, but I even texted you about this yesterday.
Yeah.
You see guys and you go, your body just looks different. Now, the one guy who didn't look different, the one guy who looked even more muscular and looked fantastic was Jose Aldo. Like he looked, and I'm not saying
he looked more muscular.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He looked incredibly muscular. I'm not saying that he's doing anything, but he was always a very muscular guy. But
that'd be the gym he's talking about.
I know it is.
Yeah, that's
I'm aware of that.
Interesting.
I'm aware of that.
I got a question. Just to switch it, Chael. If you're Conor McGregor's manager, you let him with the rematch. Obviously, he wanted it. You let him fight Nate Diaz at 170 again.
Yeah, boy, is that interesting. Yeah, you do, just because of the no lose situation. I mean, we saw he already lost this fight. This exact fight, same guy, same weight class in the same city, same amount of same everything. He already lost. Boom, it's about to be the biggest card of the year. So apparently this isn't making a dent in him. What the hell's the difference?
There's a Muhammad Ali.
But if he loses this one twice, it's a tough sell.
It's a tough
because then that
sell.
shit talking goes out the window.
And it has for this one. He's not saying that much about Nate. You know, he's still trying to deliver what the fans want, but it's harder. It's genuinely harder on him because he used to believe it.
Yeah, but I think we love him. I think we love him for the same reason that we loved Ali when he fought Foreman. Like yes, the guy's bigger, the guy's stronger, all this talk, and you've got to admire the guy's courage. The guy he really does put it on the line. So for me, he's going to 170 again. He's fighting Nate Diaz, who's just so much bigger and a really good boxer. Blah blah blah. And he's got the courage to say, "I want it again. I'm going to step in."
I get that, B. You're talking as a fighter. If you're his manager,
yeah. I'm talking as a fan,
if he loses again,
he goes to 45. And
they're saying 45 is a tough cut for him.
Yeah,
his own team was like, I don't know if he can make 45.
Yeah, but he will. But he'll have to. He's not taking on Eddie or going through the ringer at 155, and I don't think it would be offered to him. Coming off of 2 losses, I don't think you stay the number 1 contender at 155. So he's got a belt there. You know, the numbers they're paying him, his guarantee alone. He's getting it up at 45.
Do you think he cannot? He'd have his hands full. You think he'd get beat by Eddie Alvarez or Dos Anjos?
I think so. I was very confident he would get beat by Jose. Yeah, I really was. Conor's really good. Even on the Nate Diaz fight, we can talk about he lost and all that stuff. He dominated that fight for a while, and it was a Volvo against a Mac.
I agree.
You know, Conor is really good.
I think he beats him in the rematch.
He gets tired, you know. He does something, but you should. You know, you have that high output. You're that first round kind of fighter that storms a guy. Well, if you try to win by KO, you're not going to win a decision. You make one of those choices before you get in there that night. If you try to win by decision, you're not going to finish the guy. You know, so yeah, he's got some weaknesses like that, but he is really a talented fighter. He really is.
Yeah, he's definitely one of my favorite. I think the sport needs him. We need him to win.
Sure.
They really do. That new company that bought the UFC needs Conor to win. We need guys like that. Before we jump into current events, my question for you, Chael, we're jumping a little all over the place, but going from Fox, where you're the captain of UFC Tonight, and then going to ESPN, it's obviously not as often, like you're not doing it as much because they only do the major pay-per-views.
Right.
What's the biggest differences you see working from ESPN? Because before you go, when I worked with ESPN, it was literally like mic, makeup, and go. There's Jay Crawford. Holy shit. You know, it's like, okay, well, hopefully I'm good at this. And then with UFC, it's your step-by-step game plan. Here's what you're talking about.
Earpieces,
2 hours, earpieces,
direction.
Yes.
So I had. It's funny. I had the same experience at ESPN. Now I'm just used to it. But on my first day, I wasn't. They push you onto set. I don't know where to go. The red light never comes on, but you're live. Fox, everything's to tape, and at least 99% of it. So you're at ESPN, and you either perform or you don't. They expect you to perform. It's like, okay, I can operate under those circumstances. But why didn't you tell me ahead of time that this would be the circumstances? And it's a moving. It's 24 hours a day, and it's the most organized chaos ever, and it works.
That's baptism by fire.
It's damn good too.
And after 2 or 3 times out there, you go, I don't need direction. I got it. But my first time, Brendan, it was. I'm like, what just happened? And then even when you're done, they throw to the next person, and nobody tells you to leave the set.
You gotta figure it out.
Standing. And then you just walk off, and if you get in the camera shot, get in the camera shot. I mean, what the hell?
It's Sports Center. Like, I grew up on Sports Center. This is a cool story. My first job on ESPN, I got because of Chael. He texted me, he goes, hey, I can't work, I forget, in 2 weeks. They're looking for a replacement. Email this guy, put your name in the hat, guarantee you could get the job. Boom.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I was in a meeting. The guy's like, I really got to find somebody. I'm going to work on this tomorrow. And he threw out a couple of names. And I was listening to him, and I was texting Brendan.
Well, we were talking on this.
I think I even said copy and paste. I think I might have.
Yeah, copy and paste.
Yeah, just copy and paste, send it over here.
Email. Hey, man, I know you guys are really busy. Just seeing if you're looking for UFC. And he goes, that's crazy.
Yeah.
He goes, I actually am. This is a sign. I went, yeah, that's crazy. I can get on the plane tomorrow.
Weird coincidence.
And go. How's it go? They're like, breakdown Mark Hunt. We're doing like, we'll do. Oh shit!
Right?
And it's cold. It's the exact Sports Center you've seen on TV a million times. Jay Crawford's there.
It's crazy, man.
He's like, "What's it like fighting the octagon?" I'm like, It's like
being
watching
here.
Sports Center your entire life, and then now I'm face to face with Jay Crawford. That's exactly what it's like. Yeah.
It's as relaxed as your show is here today. Like when we started, somebody turned we just started.
Right.
You wouldn't think that for a
No,
multi,
man.
but you would think more organized. It's like, no, but this works. Just go.
Yeah, that's so important because I think you get an era. Authenticity is so important in today's marketplace. It just is. And if you start manipulating, people are exposed to so much. They have very sensitive antenna for anything that's being manipulated or packaged. And I think we always talk about this. Transparency, honesty, and humor is the most important.
And that's why I think Chael has done so well, because people always ask, how, why did the Fine Kid the success or whatever, you can call it whatever you want, but it's because Fox doesn't pay our bills. UFC, Zuffa doesn't pay our bills. Dana doesn't pay my bills. I can really give you my honest opinion. I don't get flack for it. I might on social media, but no one can dictate what I'm going to say. There's no producer in my ear going, hey, make sure you stay away from PDs with Chael. No, I'm going to ask whatever I want. So I think with you, you're one of the first guys, even on UFC Tonight, you gave your honest opinion on a lot of stuff. Even if it, the suits didn't like it, you still did that. Right. And I think even with, you look at ESPN now, you're doing a great job there. World Series of Fighting, and then that you parlayed that into what's the
You're Welcome podcast.
Well, You're Welcome, but you're also on what's the big show on NBC?
Oh, Celebrity Apprentice.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, that was cool.
Ooh, that's right.
Really cool.
It's insane. And Donald Trump used to run that bitch.
Yeah.
Donald Trump used to. Yeah, but I agree with you. I think you have to do, and I do take some flack for that. I did at Fox, there's a little bit at ESPN. You try to operate in the, if you're working for somebody else, you do it their way. I don't like the guys who go, well, I'm going to do what I want. Well, then don't work for somebody else.
Yeah.
So, you got to really respect that hierarchy. But at the same time, it's like, guys, but you did hire me to do a job, and you asked me a question. Here's the answer. Here's the thing that people aren't talking about, but here's the truth. And the ratings go up. And I used to think as long as you had good ratings, you were safe. And for the most part, I'm right, but not fully. I'm not fully right. They have a box they want to be in that their sponsors went in.
Where they're comfortable.
Yeah, where they're comfortable. And if you step out of that...
See, and my last...
Be careful.
Yeah, my last visit on UFC Tonight and Tough Talk, I shoot from the hip, man. I don't have they'll have cards where there's questions. I literally take those and I put them in the see, I'm like, oh, cool, thanks. Boom. We're just gonna have a conversation.
Right. Yeah.
And they're like, get your cards out. I'm like, I'm not using those.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk like you talk. You sit here if you want to ask those, man.
Right.
I'm gonna do my thing. So then when I watched on replay, a lot of stuff was cut out.
Yes.
Like, go ahead and do that.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead and do it. Go ahead and do what you want to do. Click, click, click.
They control.
And then they can manipulate.
For the record, we've been talking. I've talked to you about this. If Rogan does leave the UFC, those are big shoes to fill. And I've had a lot of conversations with people who agree that you're probably the
What did I
only
always say,
guy.
B?
Chael Sonnen.
There's only one guy.
There's only one guy that can fill those shoes.
And literally, and it's not even close.
I agree.
It's Usain Bolt, and it's Tiger Woods, and then a bunch of white guys.
I agree.
And you're
That's a nice
Tiger
compliment.
Woods.
It's just a fact, dude. You've earned it. You've earned that compliment, and I couldn't agree more. I can't think of
Those other
anybody
analysts
else.
are my friends.
Yeah.
They're
great.
Anik, Florian,
Good guys.
Brian Stan. Those are
the
really good friends of mine.
the charisma and the humor that you bring to the mic is unparalleled, and I don't know, man. I just hope you get that call.
Because
I appreciate
it is
that.
a form of entertainment.
Yeah,
and you're
it is.
entertaining
And
because
that's where
it's so
Rogan
black
comes
and
in.
white. Exactly.
Rogan is Joe Rogan, and you're not going to push him around. You're just not.
No.
And he stands his ground. And people respect it and like him, and they don't. Anik will tell me, Anik go, I'm really happy to have this job, but I do say something. I get a critique I'm a professional. I get a critique at the end of the night. He says sometimes that's a little bit tough. I wouldn't mind a pat on the back every now and then instead of a list of things I can't say. Joe, on the other hand,
dude, that's 25 years of stand-up
Go
comedy.
ahead and critique him. Let me know how that goes for
go
you.
right ahead and see if Joe
I'll
Rogan
tell you off
changes.
air some of the stuff Joe's done for me as far as Dane in the UFC goes, and you're like, holy, how's he still have a job?
Yeah.
Right.
Goes to bad.
He is so comfortable in his own skin. The good stuff, the bad,
Because he's so honest.
but it
He's so
wasn't
honest.
always. He's so honest.
Dude, in his life, he's honest, though. In every aspect of his life, he's always taken himself to task. I've known him for, I don't know, 20
Chael, is that a job you would? Is that your dream job? Is that the goal? Would you say that's the goal for you?
Well, no, I want. Well, I think if you're asking me,
The goal is to be on the Fight Underkid.
yeah,
Keep
what I
going.
want to do. Yeah, that's right.
Well,
Here we
check
are
that
at
off.
time.
That's
Check
off
that
the
one.
bucket list. So is Rogan.
That would be really great. I've never fantasized about that because it's always been Rogan, and Rogan would be missed. And so would Goldie and that whole team.
Oh,
yeah.
Rogan
Yeah,
leaving
that's
would be like
incredible.
Conor McGregor around to retirement.
Yeah,
I
no,
told him that, and he goes, "You're ridiculous." I went, "I'm not, man. You'd be missed as if
He's a
you were
huge
Jon
part of
Jones and
that.
you had lines of coke all night."
Yeah, he's a part of it. Even in the video game, if you put a different voice in, and that was actually it's a problem. They had to back the Brinks truck up to get Joe to do the voiceover.
Yeah.
But you have to have Joe, and if he is going to leave, there's got to be some compromise. So if he's going, look, I don't want to do it anymore, and they're going, we want you to do 34 shows a year. You got to compromise with him. And go, would you do 20? Would you do 19? If you phase him out completely. And business will move on. They can, for sure they can do it. But will it hurt? Yeah, it hurts.
So
You
if
need Joe.
someone came, let's say Joe stays. Let's say they compromise and he stays, and because your suspension's over when?
I think I'm up. There's 2 reports. One was June 19th, which is the day I popped, and technically or historically it's retroactive. Another one came out that said June 23rd, which I think is in like 8 or 9 days.
So pretty close there.
I'm close.
Yeah, either
I'm
way.
right in there.
Yo,
Yeah,
so
that's-
Wait, when you get a suspension like that,
looking
you
or
can't
nothing.
even be involved.
yeah, exactly.
Wait, when you get a suspension, you can't even be involved in the UFC even as a commentator?
I could do that,
You
but
could.
by policy, you cannot.
Okay.
So
by regulatory, you could.
have
by
you
their
have you
policy.
had any talks about working with the UFC?
No.
Nothing.
No, nothing at all. And I have some of those ideas, like, well, there's something I wouldn't mind doing, particularly with the Fight Pass network. Even my podcast, there's some opportunity there on Fight Pass. But I haven't had those talks. Largely, one, I'm suspended, and they're just going, hey, wait till that runs out. But the other side of it is, I started to hear these rumors of the sale, and I believed them. Jeremy Botter had reported it at Flow Combat. And he had some great sources, and I believed him. I thought, well, there's so many moving parts right now. What's the point trying
You're
to
just gonna
hammer
wait?
something out with guys that don't own it? If they're not going to own it anymore. So yeah, I just waited.
And plus, your contract with ESPN's for how much longer?
It is through 2016. Yeah, but
All good
there
things.
again, those guys threw an arm around me when I really needed a friend. I was in the middle of a that's right. So you
priceless.
talk money and yeah, they'll get beat out. They'll get beat out by plenty of guys, but it's
You're loyal,
priceless.
yeah.
You're loyal.
Fuck yeah,
and
man.
you have to live your life like that. You got
100%.
I agree.
and they were there at a time when I
Glenn
really
Jacobs is one of the guys at ESPN. He was really one of the ESPN, for a while. I was like, I don't know if we want to touch this UFC stuff. And Glenn Jacobs was like, no, I'm telling you, these guys are really good, man. We should bring them in. He was kind of the forefront of it, bringing all the guys in.
Glenn Jacobs took a job at ESPN, and it was essentially an internship. It was as low level as you could possibly get, right? He worked so hard, he put in so many hours, ESPN caught him, he was sleeping on campus. And it wasn't because he didn't have a home, it's because he was doing 18 and 19-hour days. Well, the boss that caught him sleeping on the couch liked it. And goes, hey, we got to do something with this. Anybody with this kind of pay. Now he's a boss over there. That's a cool story.
awesome.
No,
Now
he's
a
That's the
beast.
American
He's
way.
running. He is who I answered. He's
a
running
beast.
stuff.
love
Hey,
that.
hey, ESPN, is there any way you could get out of Bristol, though? I mean,
Thank you.
it is
Why?
just- why?
Why
They're in this
Bristol?
little town. They have a great
Taxes
barbecue place
probably
there.
or something.
They're in this
Man.
little town.
Yeah, I know Bristol,
and it's
Connecticut.
just freaking.
Yeah, there's not a lot there.
I mean, if they're in LA, this is everybody,
Oh,
and they're
my
losing
God.
guys to FS1. Now they're winning the ratings battle, but they're losing talent.
Skip
to
Bayless
FS1.
said, "See ya."
Yeah, and a lot of it is just
Yeah,
Location.
Where do you want to be, LA or Bristol? And
It's insane. They have a LA studio, but it's not like their flagship.
No.
I remember flying there, like, okay, I got to take 2 planes to get to Bristol.
The
You got
worst.
to drive, and
The
it's
worst.
cold, and
you
it's
drive after the 2 planes. I hate. Did you go to Minnesota? I would imagine.
Minnesota.
Yeah, then you fly into Hartford or something and go down.
And then you
Yeah.
gotta
It's
drive
5
in.
hours to get from the West Coast to the East Coast.
Yeah.
Their travel department
Yeah.
makes it 14, and I tell them that all the time, and they laugh. They think it's funny.
Keep it.
And it's like
I won't do gigs in those.
Aggressive, I'm it's only a 5-hour flight. I'm trying to get something. And
But it's ESPN,
They're
so
not
I'm like,
playing.
all
Better
right.
off flying to New York and then just
Yeah.
take a train up. Fuck, man. That's
How,
the
mu- how
line.
much
I know
longer do we
that.
have you, B?
10 more minutes.
Well,
I
then-
apologize.
No. Then this is what you and Chael, this will be a fun one because I heard a comment by you, Chael, and Chael knows politics. One thing Chael knows is politics. He ran for.
I ran for office. Yeah, will again. Yeah.
So he
will
ran for office, so he knows his shit. You made a comment about
I won. I had to back out. Criminal charges.
I know. I know. I remember that. My favorite political comment was, I don't do, I don't know this jiu-jitsu stuff, lying on your back, opening your legs, letting another man get between you. I'm a Republican.
Right.
I don't do that kind of stuff. It's the greatest.
So you said a comment about Trump where you said you think he's doing all this smoke and mirrors talk and making headlines, but once he gets into office, he's going to be an actual president and make actual changes.
Yeah, so here's the thing with Trump. I mean, first off, he's not beholden to anybody. And you'll vote for whoever you want. Here's the one thing. They say you never talk politics and never talk religion. With me, you can always do both because I am willing to be wrong. I'm willing to change my mind when confronted with new evidence.
Yeah, me too.
And so it's like, hey, don't be afraid to debate me. I'll never hurt your feelings. I'll share my opinion, but I'll listen to yours. And if you don't ever debate or argue with anybody in life that isn't willing to be wrong. But the thing with Trump is this. A lot of people are saying he's a madman that's going to lead us into war. And it's like, guys, read The Art of War sometime. The best general never fires a shot. I could tell all the listeners out there, who was the toughest kid in your school growing up? Everybody knows the toughest kid in school. My follow-up question would be, how many times you ever see him get in a fight? 1% of people are going, I saw him get in a fight. The rest of them are going, who'd fight him? He was the toughest guy in school. Yeah. Whoever talks the toughest is the toughest. It's true on the playground, but it's true all the way up to the White House and national security. If the best general will align his troops, he'll let you know what he's going to do, and he never has to pull the trigger. Putin just did this. Putin just took over a piece of the Ukraine because he said he wanted. He rolled in real slow in tanks. He brought his troops with him. No one died, and they're Russians.
The Russians.
Well,
that's leadership.
The Crimea is primarily 80% Russian to begin with. They speak Russian.
They kind of wanted him to come in. They're kind of going, hey, what took you
it's
so
almost
long?
like Canada. It's almost like Canada.
You're a Trump fan.
I like Trump. I like that he's plain spoken. I like the look.
But he's not plain spoken. My problem is this: for me, I'm not a Hillary supporter, and I'm a free market guy, and I'm a libertarian. So I'm an old school conservative in that sense. I just believe in maximum liberty, and I like the marketplace. I don't think the answer is more government, bigger government. I worry about that. I like the idea that we should probably have somebody who's an economic stud in office over somebody who's a bureaucrat. I like that idea. If you want somebody to run the economy well, get somebody who knows how to run a business well. I think the verdict is still out on whether Trump even is a good businessman. I've talked to a lot of very successful businessmen who laugh at his business credentials.
Haters.
In New York. No, I mean, these guys are...
He's a legit businessman.
Well, that's a whole nother debate. But the other issue is, because he's had a lot of failed businesses, my biggest issue with him is that he's such a narcissist, and he's simply not a straight talker. The problem is PoliticoFact, or whatever it's called, they went through like the 140 hours of his talk and the number of inconsistencies and lies. Yes, politicians lie. This guy, is on another level.
You trust Hillary though, B?
I don't trust Hillary. That's my problem. I don't like either one of them.
We got to vote for one.
I do. I do, and I don't know what I'm going to do.
Isn't the word lie a little bit unfair? I mean, they do this to Hillary too. I'm not just a Republican, but I'm a conservative guy. But I don't like this whole lie thing. It's like, look, time goes by. Maybe you remember something different. Maybe this was your
maybe it was a beta blocker. Maybe it was an estrogen blocker.
But there is room in life where you're wrong.
Yes.
You count something. I'm not a liar if I tell it differently than Brendan, but maybe I had it wrong.
Yeah.
And so I kind of do hate where they pin someone down on a liar. He said it was 10 and it turned out it was 8. I'm going, that's a pretty good memory after 15 years.
But nobody would disagree, Chael, that at the end of the day, this guy is very, very loose with the truth. He just is. Yes, I know politicians do what they do. I think that I react with Trump to the fact that I think he's such a narcissist, and I don't like people who essentially are their own biggest fans. That's, I think, viscerally.
But what if he makes some changes, B? Because
I don't know what ideas he has. But if besides free trade,
if we keep going down the road, where Hillary's the safe vote, right? What changes does she make? You know what I'm saying? So I think that's where the public is drawn to Trump. Because we know how it's going to work with Hillary. Yeah. I think we know. We have a general idea. With Trump, it's almost like you're taking a risk, right?
Trump appeals to people who say, look, I don't trust either branch of government. I don't trust either aisle. I don't trust the Democrats. I don't trust the Republicans. I put my trust in the Democrats. I put my trust in the Republicans. All they did was grow government. All they did was this, that, and the other thing. And the benefits haven't reached me. So you have a lot of very angry, disenfranchised people who want to take the entire game and throw it up in the air. They want to take the chessboard and just toss it in the air. See what happens. That is, so when I see Trump, I see when I see the appeal, what I see is people are voting for frustration. When I see Trump, I see volume and ambition. I don't necessarily see ideas. I've listened very closely. I want to hear what his ideas are. I haven't seen enough of that.
What do you think of that, Chael?
That's my issue.
You think he's all smoke and mirrors?
That's a very fair depiction. You know, I do think he's a great businessman. I think he did some great things. And I've heard the arguments that he borrowed $1 million and he could have put that in the stock market. It'd be worth it. Those guys are such liars. That's not how it works. You show me one guy that ever put enough money in it. You show me one human being that made enough money in a 401k to retire. It's never happened. Now, guys have retired, and upon retiring, cashed in their 401ks. Nobody has. That's a lie. And these economists put it out, and they try to look smart in their suits. Show me one person. Well, I'll show you the numbers. Here, it went up 10% annually, and here's the yield, and here's what it. Just show me the person that did it, and I'll stop talking about it. This has been around for a long time. Show me one guy that did it. I'll stop. They don't. They want to show you numbers and spreadsheets, and if you would, it's a bunch of crap. Trump went out there, he took some risks, and he employed a lot of people. What do you want him to just stick his money in the economy?
That's true.
Somebody has to go out there and work.
That's true.
Somebody's got, you can talk about all these people that go to school and how great school is, but somebody's got to build the school, and that guy did an important thing too. And Trump funded them and gave them places to live. He went out and he signed the front of a paycheck. It's easy to sign the back of a
the
paycheck.
brand has value. He grew that brand.
Yeah.
So when they talk about him being worth $4 billion, first of all, it's a very difficult thing to put a number on because it's very difficult to see what his businesses are actually doing. But the brand itself is, by many accounts, worth that much money.
And he's
so
saying
that does have value.
Prove it.
Yeah.
He's saying he's going to prove it, that he's got the tax statements to prove it. But at any rate,
that's always tricky too, because when you file a tax return, you're always underrepresenting income.
So what the fuck can he do, B, though? If he shows his tax return,
no, I'm saying
you're still not going to buy it? Like, even if he shows a portion of it.
It's a difficult thing to do in that sense. Again, I'm reacting to the idea that I haven't heard enough substance from the man. I hear a lot of volume. I hear him essentially being a demagogue in terms of how he is appealing to popular frustration. I think he's going to lose in a landslide. If you look at the numbers, I think he's going to lose in a landslide.
You agree with that, Joe? I don't either.
No, I think
Time will
it'll
tell.
be close. I'm not confident he's going to win. I'm confident he can't. I think it's going to be very tight.
Well, 27%. If you look at women, the Hispanic vote, the black vote, he's just not going to win those votes, and that's a large chunk of the voting public. And then it's left up to, then you've got Democrats, and then you've got Republicans, then you got Independents. He's not gaining a lot of ground from what I've seen in the last polls. So I'd be very surprised.
Do you
if he
agree with that,
doesn't lose
Joe?
decisively.
He's behind by 6% nationally right now. Now, if you do the Electoral College, things are a little bit closer for him, but he's behind by 6%. But what people don't understand is he hasn't spending money. Hillary spent $40 million. He spent $11.
Yeah, of his own money.
He just simply hasn't started on her yet, and it's not about name calling, doing all these different things. He's going to get into some baits, and he's, to your point, he has not laid out very clear visions
Plans,
of this is what I'm going to do and this is how I'm going to do it. He has been good at saying this is a problem and we're going to get in there and fix it. How are you going to do it? I'm going to bring in good people and we're going to fix it. Okay, there's a little hope, but to your point, he needs to lay out specifically, step by step, what he's going to do. But in the debates, he's going to have to do that, and I think he's going to make a good choice with his VP pick. Hillary could shoot herself in the foot if she puts Elizabeth Warren on the ticket.
Yeah,
she doesn't
I agree with
understand that the country is sexist. Now, we would never say anything sexist, and we would deny it at all costs publicly. She needs to be smart enough to know we're sexist. And then it comes down to understanding that our military trumps education, Social Security, and everything else. And you're telling me not only will my commander-in-chief, but also her backup, should she die, is going to be a female that never served?
Not up in here.
It's
That's a
not
very
what the
good point,
military
Chael.
wants.
That's a very
What's
good
up,
point.
Cal?
That's a very good point. And I have a lot of criticisms for Hillary as well. But I think that Elizabeth Warren would be it'd be a very dicey thing for her to do.
She's done. If she does that, she will be misjudging the
Don't you think she knows that?
She already has. Yeah, probably.
Don't you think her team knows that?
Probably.
I would think so. I mean, if she wants to win this, if she wants to put a nail in the coffin, you put Bill in the VP spot.
I love me some Bill.
Woo!
You got my vote.
Not a bad
her ego
idea.
won't allow her to do it.
No
and
way.
She's going to
No.
make the play of, I can win this anyway. We're going to have Bill. He'll come to the debates. He'll do things. Everybody knows he's a great economist. I'll name drop him. If she wants to shut the book on it right now, you put him in the passenger seat.
She's not going to do it, though.
No, she
That's
can't.
brilliant.
She hates him.
She hates him.
Yeah.
He looks like pure shit, by the
And
way.
he's a guy, if he would just tell the truth, he never did. He was just so smart. You get so lost, and this is divisible.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
If he come out and say, "Look, I'll sleep with anything in the world except her," but I'm a pretty good if he would have done that,
Except
By the way, the good news is a president doesn't make that much of a difference a lot of times in this giant economy in this giant world. The president sets an agenda. The president has an intent, and the founding fathers wanted it to be that way. Thank God. We don't want one man or one woman to have that much power.
I feel like these horrible tragedies, like in Dallas or San Bernardino or in Florida, it helps Trump's cause. Because I feel like he hits a nerve.
That's actually not
with
so
America.
much. That's not so much the case, because his reaction after the Orlando shooting hurt him when he said, "Appreciate the congrats about radical Islam and foreseeing this," and he made it about himself, and that really hurt him. And in fact, people, including a lot of conservatives, do not like his comments on Muslims. It didn't sit well with the American spirit.
The Muslim thing helped him a lot.
Because in fact, a lot of people felt very uneasy.
Chael,
a lot of independents.
His numbers did go up in the primary.
Primary is different though. In the voting, and it's very, very different.
But
And
to Brendan's point, it did help him at that time.
Brendan Coyne still helped. Hey,
you just hate on Trump so bad.
I love both of you
because you're always so anti-Trump on it. I knew he.
And
was
I'm rarely like that. I'm rarely.
I know,
anybody.
but we get so many emails on facts a lot of times. I just wanted Chael to come on because he knows his facts.
And they thought that would tank him. I remember when it came out, and I kind of
in the primary, in the primary, nationally,
was like,
nationally, it has been a liability. Nationally, he's had to tone that down. There are a lot of reasons for that, because the majority of Americans, including Democrats and independents and a lot of Republicans,
CNN and Chael Sonnen disagree.
I don't know about
Let's
that.
go to current events with Evan.
Daddy's got to run. Chael Sonnen, I cannot thank you enough. You're one of my favorite Americans. Speaking of Americans.
Don't call yourself daddy around me and Chael.
I know. But by the way, let's vote for Chael Sonnen. How about that?
That's a good vote right there.
I'd vote for you, buddy.
Thank you, Brendan. Are we going on?
Yeah, you guys are going on.
Cool.
You got to carry the torch.
All right. Can we talk about Brian? Is that what happens?
Yes.
Usually when somebody leaves, you.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Or put him over. We say good, but you'll be the topic. Thank you, buddy.
All right, let's take a little break. We'll be right back.
Now that the kid has left us, it is just Chael and myself. My man. You got a lot going on. I want to talk to you about, you just started doing your own. It's a grappling?
Yeah, grappling only.
Grappling as far as wrestling, because obviously you're a wrestler. You're wrestling base. So is it like Metamoris, Eddie Bravo Invitational? What are we talking about?
That's what it would be like. So it's EBI rules. I talked to Eddie. I said, hey, I'm jumping in this space. I'm not looking to be competitors going here, but what do you want to do with athletes? If somebody comes up, he goes, listen, I got in this so that guys had a place to wrestle. He goes, you do whatever you want. If we're the same date, if somehow we end up on the same weight, if I've got a guy first, then don't step on my toes. And it's like, great. And he goes, hey, Chael, let me suggest something to you. He said, everybody that starts a grappling event wants to have rules specific to that event. He goes, as far as an industry, and he was talking from being a gym owner perspective more than anything else, he goes, if we want to create an industry, it has to trickle down to the practice room. The coach has to know what he's training guys for.
For sure.
So if all the promoters can get together and band behind one set of rules, like they do in basketball and tennis, MMA, for example, with the unified rules, all the gyms, everything's the same. He goes, then the coach doesn't have to put 2 or 3 guys over here that are doing Abu Dhabi and 2 and 3 guys that are doing this and 2 and 3 guys. It made perfect sense. And he goes, so take the EBI rules. And he was talking me into it. He goes, that's going to put me over because you're using EBI. I go, I don't care about that. He goes, well, take them because they're the most perfect rules. So that's what we've done. The guys will grapple for 8 minutes. If they can't figure it out on their own, so there's no points, submission only. If they don't figure it out on their own, we go into overtime. This is the EBI rules, and you start with very precarious positions. You could start with my back. Now you've got a shot, a timer goes. Then I get your back, should I not submit? We go, whoever did that faster was the winner.
Whoever got the submission
escaped faster
right?
if no one taps out. So someone's going to tap out, and that becomes, from a promotional standpoint, what's most interesting. Now, Eddie had to do that because he does a tournament. So you have to have a winner and a loser to advance somebody. Ours is more of a dual meet where they're one-offs, but we're still trying to build divisions. We want to have a champion. We want to find out who is the best submission grappler alive. That's what we want to do here. So we've got to have an architecture in place where guys can advance and prove that they're number one. So you have to have a hand raised at the end of the night.
It's really smart because, you participated in Metamoris. I did Metamoris. Watching Metamoris, and then I went to Eddie's event here at the Forum. I forget where it was at, somewhere downtown Los Angeles. I was blown away, man. Because listen, I love jiu-jitsu. I have a jiu-jitsu tattoo on my body. Jiu-jitsu's always been my favorite. it's tough as a fan to watch and be invested, because unless you know what's going on, if guys are so good and it's 20 minutes and there's no submission, you're not going to gain a lot of notoriety. So when I went to Eddie's thing, I even told Eddie after, I went, it's brilliant, man. It's brilliant. I've never been so engaged this long in grappling, ever.
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
You know, Vinny told me that. Vinny Mogliant said that, and he is an Eddie guy, so maybe he wasn't totally objective, but he is the Abu Dhabi champion. He beat Chris Weidman and Verdum in the same day. So he needs to have his respect. And he goes, man, these are the perfect set of rules. He said, because we are competitive guys. I can tell you as a grappler, Brendan, I've been in over my head in grappling matches, and that instant parachute that you launch mentally is make it 20 minutes. Get a draw. Forget if I can't get to more better positions than him, then just survive. And a draw is a great default button, but at the same time, you just simply can't build a division that way. You can't name a guy a champion when the number one contender's last 3 fights were draws.
You can't build a business.
You just can't. You have to have a win. I talked to Halleck about that too. You know, Halleck started Metamoris, and hear what you want about Metamoris. I loved it. I would wrestle in Metamoris now. Right now, I just love the experience.
I did too.
But I did ask him about it, and I said, Halleck, you know, what about this draw system? And he goes, well, for getting guys to compete, I found it hard. A lot of these guys don't want to put it on the line. They like that default button. And secondly, he said, yeah, I have a problem building a division and getting a top contender. So, you know, I took his advice, took Eddie's advice, and that's where we are. But to give a final plug on it, we got a great card. Jake Shields will be wrestling in the co-main event.
Love Jake.
Against Chris Lytle.
What?
Came out of nowhere. Lytle's never been tapped out, and he's even got a submission win over Matt Brown. Shields has got to be looked as the favorite there, but Lytle has never been tapped out, and he's in a competition where they will go until someone taps.
Have you rolled with either guy?
Jake Shields, yes.
Jake's a good buddy of mine.
Yeah, and
he's a freak.
He's a freak, and he's got an endurance and a pace, but Lytle did not hesitate, not one bit, said, I want that match. The main event, we've got Vinny. He's going to be taking on Ronnie Marks. Now, Ronnie Marks is... Ronnie's good, man. Did you remember his fight with Yoel Romero?
Yes.
He kicked the hell out of him. Ronnie was a last-minute replacement. King Mo was supposed to do it. He hurt his neck. And then here's one that you personally will find intriguing. Rico Rodriguez is coming back.
What?
Out of nowhere.
In shape, or is he 310 pounds?
No, we've got a highlight video of him. We launched it this morning at 12:01 a.m. He looks great. I would hit him at about 248.
Whoa.
Leanest he's been in some time. Rico's coming back. He's going to take on my coach, Fabiano Scherner, who fought in the UFC a number of times. They were supposed to fight back in the day. Now they're going to go do it in this contest. And then we've got Stephen Abbas, Olympic silver medalist, taking on Alex Kanders.
Dang, man.
Yeah, a black belt under Eddie Bravo. Bomba just stepped in to take on Nathan Orchard. It's stacked. It's an absolutely great card. We pull out all the bells and whistles. The venue is completely sold out. I can't remember a grappling event that's ever sold out. I trust that it has before. I don't know of one.
I can't either.
But this sold out 2 weeks in advance. Now, I'm very confident that's never happened before. So 2 weeks in advance, one little small market of Portland, Oregon, they packed the house. It's going to be a great experience.
Good for you, man.
FlowCombat.com this Sunday, July 17th.
Boom.
All right.
Let's go to some current events, Av.
All right, let's do it. First current event on Sunday after UFC 200. Cowboy and CM Punk had a little press conference kind of deal on Fight Pass. Cowboy said that DC fought like a fag and is catching a ton of heat from it. DC responded on the MMA Hour and said, you don't disrespect me like that. At the end of the day, I'm a man. When I see him, we'll have some words.
Wow.
Good for DC. He needs this.
Didn't see that
Yeah,
coming.
I didn't see that coming.
Everyone likes Cowboy. That's the thing. Cowboy stood up for his teammate Jon Jones, but wow, DC fired back at the Cowboy.
I think it's good. Trust me, Cowboy will not back down. DC might get kicked in the face, but he'll definitely take him down. The word fag is so tough. So when Bisping said it, he's English. It's a completely different meaning if you're from England. So my mom's English. They would drop the word fag all the time. Here, it's very similar to the N-word, referring to a black guy, referring to a homosexual. So you can't drop the F-bomb. But again, that's Cowboy. I think that's why we love him. He's kind of loose, you know. Yeah. I think he apologized and posted a picture with the gay pride UFC t-shirt.
He has since deleted that apology post.
Did he? I was a little surprised that he gave it. I knew that came from the top, but I was a little surprised Cowboy did it because Cowboy's a good old boy, and he meant wimp. That's what he meant.
Like sissy.
Yeah, sissy. And frankly, that's how that word used to be used. In colloquialism terms, that's how that used to be used on the playground. But yeah, at any rate, you can't say it. Look, we know you can't say it. You can't.
Cowboy should have stuck behind it. If you want to be a real cowboy, unless it's Brokeback Mountain, you got to stick behind that. What else you got, F?
Yeah, don't be so sensitive.
No.
All right, I'm going to show you a little video for the next one. So,
all right.
The home run derby was yesterday, and as a celebrity guest, they had Terry Cruz's giant ass come up and take a couple swings.
I love Terry.
Now, if you're going to do home run derby, you're going to be on national television. I assume you're fairly comfortable swinging a baseball.
Well,
bat,
you know Terry played in the NFL too, right? For the San Diego Chargers.
Did he play?
Yeah, played.
All right,
for a few years.
So good athlete then, actual athlete.
Have you ever seen Terry in person?
Oh yeah,
great guy, man.
Specimen.
We were just at the Spike Awards with him, and he has so much charisma, and he just has that it factor.
Yeah.
I was watching him just do this thing, and he was hosting. I'm like, good Lord, man.
Yeah,
he's so talented.
He's got it. He's charismatic.
So what happened?
Enormous
clay.
Yeah, enormous human, athletic specimen, goes up to do his home run derby swings, and I'm just gonna show you this little video. Take a look at how it went down.
Did you ever see Terry Crews on, I forget what show, how he said he was addicted to porn as affecting his marriage?
Why did he? Oh my God!
He pops his shirt off first of all. Immediately pops his shirt off.
He's so jacked. All natural, you think, Joe? It's tough with black guys.
No, it does not. Yeah, it is, and no, it does not look it. But why would he juice? It would make no sense.
The single worst swing I've ever seen in my life.
Well,
so that's not how I saw this story ending. I thought this was going to be.
I thought he was getting a home run.
He knocked the holy hell out of it.
Me too.
Quite the opposite. Terrible.
Is he just fooling around? Good pitch. That's not the pitch, Brennan. That ball drops right down over the plate.
It really does. That's a strike. This is the thing, though. If you're an action star, like if Hollywood called me right now, and I just did an audition yesterday, and for this audition, if they're like, "Hey, Shab, we want you to be the next Batman. You got to put on 25 pounds of muscle." Okay, go see this doctor.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to do it. For Terry, you know, he's an action star. He's also a comedian type of actor as well. But, I mean, it makes sense. I don't care if my actors are on PEDs.
No, definitely not. I mean, that's what medicine is. Medicine has to enhance you or it would be considered malpractice. So, yeah, in sport, it's dirty and filthy because it's cheat. It's against the rules. But in regular life, yeah, you got to take medicines. You got to take it the right way. Don't take illegal stuff. But yeah, you can take a lot of.
He struck out on 3 straight of those, by the way. He had 3 chances.
Not how I saw that story. Did you have a feeling
that
he was going to lay an egg there? The way Ev said, I thought it was going to be great.
I thought he was going to Mark McGuire that thing.
Oh, yeah, no, setting you up.
Damn, I wonder if did he take any practice swings?
There's no way he didn't. He had to have.
Dude, so I did this celebrity event go-kart thing with Jason Ellis. You know Jason Ellis? Mm-hmm. Great guy. Good buddy of mine. So he had this go-kart thing, and these go-karts are a little tricky. It's like in a Costco warehouse. Special K was there. Everyone was there filming it. And you don't want to just do a live one. So I did some practice rounds. You know who was doing practice rounds for, 30 minutes before?
Oh.
Dominick Cruz.
Really?
And then went in the corner before the race and was talking to himself going, they don't want you to win. They don't want you to win this. They don't want you to win this. You're going to win. And the guy next to me goes, Jesus Christ, man, crazy, right? I went, I guess, man, it's probably why he's world champion, and I tell dick jokes, and you work here. So.
Right, yeah, exactly.
And I did not win the race. I won, like, the loser's bracket. He came in second. But, yeah, he was literally practicing dead serious, dead sweat, just like it was Jeff Gordon. Like, he was going to get $1 million paycheck. I'm like, well, that's why he's world champion.
I had some silly thing with him on UFC Tonight one time where we were going to debate a question, but then they were going to award a winner to the debate, and I beat him, and all hell broke loose. And it was real. He stormed out.
He's so competitive. Me and him were so. When I think it was maybe 2 times ago I did UFC Tonight. It was me and him were the hosts, and he's so competitive. And we have a different view on things. I view it now more as marketing, money, what's best for the fighter. He's more about competition, purest of the sport. So we butted heads like crazy. And afterwards, I love everyone. After I was like, it's all good. But no, it wasn't all good. Right. He was literally like. No, fuck you, man.
Right.
I was like, good, bro. We're not even in the same weight class.
He's just so competitive. Have you seen him and Bisping go at it on the air?
Oh, yeah. Bisping's the same way.
Yes.
To a degree.
And I don't know where that's going to end.
Me
I don't
neither.
know if all of a sudden everybody's in on the gag or if this is actually us. But I remember the first time it came out, one was making fun of the eye and the other had the high. It was must-see TV, but it got weird. I remember getting a little bit nervous watching it going, what's going to happen right now?
Dude, did you ever see when
Karen Bryant's going to break it up? I mean, I was going,
yeah, good luck with that. Good luck with that. Did you ever see when the camera was still rolling before the DC Jon Jones fight, when the camera's still rolling and Jon didn't know it, And he's like, DC, I don't know if you have never seen this, YouTube it, they might take it down. He goes, DC, how much money you got in the bank? DC's like, what? So how much money you got in the bank? He's like, I don't know. And he calls him an N-word. He's like, you a house, ninja, blah, blah, blah. He was working for Fox and all this other bullshit. I got $10 million in the bank. Just like, you have to do that shit. It was classic.
I remember John's told him, I'm caked up. I remember hearing that term. Going, that was funny.
It's great. What else you got, Ev?
How do you not know the camera's going, though? I mean, come on. You got a mic and a camera. You have to assume it's on. That was a rookie move by John. Oh, I didn't know the camera's going. The camera's always going.
Always.
That's why they put it there.
I made the mistake on UFC Tonight one of the first times I was on there. We went to commercial, and they were doing something. It was Kenny and DC and me. And they were like giving me all these pointers. I was kind of getting annoyed, right? The fighting the kid was doing well. I kind of had an ego. And they're a commercial, and I'm on the mic, and I said something. I started making fun of, like, I forget what I said. They wanted to give me some point, and I was like, dude, you know what's crazy? I make more money. I get more views doing the fucking fighting kid than this bullshit. I said, I don't have to wear this monkey suit. And then I see Kenny like this. And then Sonny goes, Brendan, we all can hear you, right? I went, yeah. I'm just messing with you guys, man. I love being here. And they started laughing, but haven't been back since, I don't think.
Yeah, that's hilarious. And Kenny will not step out of the box.
Never.
Will not do it.
Never.
When he went through that thing for plagiarism, I thought, well, here's the question. It doesn't matter what he did there. Here's the question. Are they looking to get out of the Kenny Florian business? Because he won't give you an opportunity. He'll never screw up. He just screwed up. Here's your opportunity if you want to. And I think they thought about it. His numbers aren't great. He's not edgy at all.
Yeah. Guys, we'll just keep him.
Yeah, just keep him.
Fuck it. What else you got, Ev?
All right, last one we got is there's a little bit of a weird one. Joe Frazier's jockstrap, unwashed, mind you, is being auctioned off from the Ali Fight of the Century fight.
Bet your sweet ass it is. For how much?
Take a guess.
I mean, Ali just died.
How much would you pay for an unwashed jockstrap from another man?
Oh, yeah, nothing. But the fact that you're bringing it up, I mean, I'm gonna hit it at 20 grand, but I'm being ridiculous. I'm gonna hit it at 20 grand.
56 grand.
I think it's expected to sell for 10 grand, or it was expected to sell for 10 grand, but it met its 5 grand marker in the first 6 hours.
Well, if you buy that,
probably gonna triple that. It'll probably end up being somewhere around 15 grand.
I'll tell you right now. If you buy that and I go to your house for a house party and it's framed, I'm probably gonna leave.
Right.
Can't be friends anymore, man. Why? You bought a other man's jockstrap and you framed it.
Yeah.
And you're proud of it.
That's hilarious.
Can't be your friend anymore.
If some guy
You're on
has
ice.
that and then wants me to come look at it, you're right. I'm going to go, yeah, that's a little weird.
Can't be your friend. Don't
That's
call me anymore.
a little
There's no
weird.
more barbecues. Nothing. Is that it, Ev?
No, so you're not going to be throwing in a bid for the jockstrap then?
There's not a man that has ever been born on this planet that I'd pay money for his used jockstrap.
My own. I'm not keeping my own dirty jet. That's gross. There's a reason I wash it at the end of practice, right? It's weird.
This is funny. My Jon Jones, maybe his second or third fight, when we were training together, I beat Chase Gormley in 47 seconds. He was the main event against, I think, either Matashenko or Brandon Vera in Broomfield, Colorado. He forgot his jockstrap and tights. I beat the brakes off my guy 47 seconds. I come back, and he's like, Shab, I need your jockstrap, man. I'm like, what? He goes, I need your jockstrap. I'm like, why the fuck do you want to use my jockstrap? He's like, I don't have one. All right. Gave it to him. It was my favorite pair. It was this Under Armour one. Never got him back.
Yeah.
But, at the time, you desperation, you'll wear a jockstrap. You can't fight without it.
I had to do that with
jockstrap?
Chris Camozzi one time. We're on the same card. I go, dude, and we had just met. You know each other 'cause the world's small. We cut weight the day before in the sauna. I see him the next day. I go, I need your jock and cup. And I was like, and I'm never giving it back. Just so you know. And he's like, no, you're not. You're not giving it back. Keep it. I'm like, thank you, buddy.
He's a good guy.
He's a
Camozzi's a great guy.
Camozzi tried to fight Cormier last week. When
that's
hot
his
seat
style
was
for
going
sure.
around. Yeah,
do you know who else put their name in that hat?
Who?
I'm just asking. Do you know?
I know it was narrowed down. You might have seen, in fact, TMZ of all places reported this. But Anderson, Dan Henderson, and Gegard Mousasi. Gegard probably made the most sense. We didn't know about it if you get Anderson or if you wanted to pay $6 million flat to get him, and that's what he charged. And then Henderson had already fought Cormier. That
doesn't make sense. Yeah, and he got his ass whooped.
So, Kamozi's like, well, if you're just looking for a body, I mean, I know I'm not in the weight, but I'll take the fight. So he was one of the guys that offered. And UFC wrote him back. Joe Silva did respond and say, we're already working on Anderson. Keep that to yourself.
That's pretty cool.
Thanks anyway. Yeah.
I think with DC, I'm sure they gave him a choice, right? Or because Anderson makes the most sense, especially at DC's career, champion, huge card. Musasi's not that big of a star anymore. Granted, he's a phenomenal fighter, but he's still not a huge draw. There's no wow factor with those other guys.
That's true. Yeah, and with Anderson, it got real interesting because of the parity. It got real interesting real fast. It's a dream match you never thought you'd see. You never even fantasized about it because they were in different categories. If you're DC and you're in on the pay-per-view and he is, it's just whatever's going to sell. I would think it's as simple as that.
I agree. Yeah, like I said before, DC, I think he missed a bit of opportunity there, especially with John being out for 2 years. He's fighting Anderson Silva. Just the whole way it went down, not looking for a finish, playing it safe. As a fighter, I 100% get on 2 days' notice. As a businessman, if I'm Dana, I'd be pretty upset.
Sure.
Like, dude, we brought in Anderson Silva. He's old as fuck.
Right.
And he's been tested.
Right.
And he's taking this fight in 2 days. You're supposed, you've beat everyone except for John.
Right.
Like, let's go to work, man. Let's make it entertaining.
For sure.
So I think you just missed the opportunity there. But
yeah, I think that's right.
what can you do? Anything else, Ev?
That's it, my man.
Let's go with some fan questions. Special K. Well, you picked them, right? Special K?
Yep.
Evan, you're going to give them.
Got it.
Bring it. We had
Same
so many.
fan
I think
always.
it's the most fan questions we've ever had on the show for you.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool.
All right,
Let's
first
do it.
one. Chael, have you had the itch to fight again recently?
Oh man, I think about it all the time. I wrestled in college, and I will tell you, one match specifically, but matches in general, I'll be driving around in my car thinking about fantasizing to go back, to go in that moment. And I've talked to fighters that have retired, and I guess that's just the way your life's going to go from now. You probably do that with football, MMA, I mean, with an athletic career.
I don't.
Do you do that with the show at all? Like, do you ever go home and go, I could have done even better on the show. Oh, I should have done this.
Every time.
Yeah.
Every time.
And see, I do the same thing. So I think it's like, well, you just got to come to terms with it. But to answer the question candidly, yeah, man, I think about it all the time.
So if your suspension's up in freaking a few days.
I think it's up. I think I'm off right now.
So if you're off in the UFC called, you would fight?
No, I would not. No, I am all done. But
you're done.
Yeah, but I do think about it. I do fantasize about it. And, I was just at UFC 200, right? The arena's packed. It's just brand new. And you're jealous. I'm enjoying the show, but at the same time, I'm thinking, man, I'd love to be part of that. So
I can see
about
that. I like the big cards. I'm like, man, it'd be cool to be involved with that. And I had a business opportunity with Bellator. They flew me out. It was the Phil Davis and King Mo card. And I brought my brother, and I met with Coker, did all this stuff. And I said to myself, all right, if I get to the arena, because I haven't been in a live fight since my last fight against Travis Brown 2 years ago, for many reasons. So I said, if I get in there and it hits me, I can figure some stuff out. The UFC, obviously, I'm under contract with them. I could fight whenever I want. And I got there, and they walked me through the back of the locker rooms because Phil and I are close, and King Mo. And I was like, no, hell no. Once I get there in person, I'm like, no way, man.
And I went through that as well. I remember when I very first, I had fought Anderson Silva a second time. I lost, and I remember thinking, I'm probably not going to do this sport anymore. And I went home to Portland, and there was a strike force going on. I went live, and this is like 5 days after I fought. Boom! It's the very next Friday, and Tim Kennedy and Rockhold were fighting. I remember watching it cage side, just going, I can't believe I ever did this. And it had only been 5 days. It's like I can't believe I ever did this, let alone want to do it again. And then some more time went by, and next thing I know, you get the itch, goes the other way. But I understand, what you're saying about that.
It's weird because my manager's like, when you retire, man, you can always say you retire and then come back. And I was like, yeah, it's a loose statement. I'll do that. Maybe I'll cut to 205 with this new diet, blah, blah, blah. It's just not there for me, man. Right. And that's so dangerous.
Yeah,
it's so dangerous.
But then there's your answer, right? Then there's your answer.
I think it was the right choice.
If I don't want to do it, then I'm not going to do it.
What else you got, Ev?
All right, next one. Chael, when did you consider being the bad guy? What motivated you to go down that path by embracing the heel persona, which made you famous, fucking loved, and
I was genuinely angry, Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I was genuinely angry, and a lot of it just came from jealousy. I couldn't get an opportunity. I was at a gym, and we had some great fighters there, but they were guys that got up in the loft and then pulled the ladder up behind them. They didn't help any of us to get anywhere in the UFC. I had management companies that just couldn't do anything, and I started to realize, you got to get there yourself. No one's going to help you. And I genuinely, though, got angry from it. I'd be at home, not in the UFC, not in any big show, fighting at the dog park for $500 and watching Vanderlei knock these guys out in Pride. And everybody's saying he's the best in the world. And I remember sitting there with my friends going, I will crush this guy right now. And having my own friends laugh at me, because if you weren't in the UFC or Pride, then it's because you weren't good enough to be in UFC and Pride. I just remember getting this frustration and this anger about it. And, I lived like that for a long time. I was genuinely angry, and when people would ask me a question, I would just answer it, and that was it.
But like the WC days, you really didn't have the mouthpiece you brought to the UFC. Like I remember you beating Paulo Filho and all that stuff and that weird controversy, and then when you got to the UFC, it was just like boom.
Yeah.
Like just almost this, you are a fan of the WWE, so it's almost you took parts of that, I feel like.
I think some of that came along. At first it was really genuine, and the camera had found me. I would have been that way in the WEC, but nobody ever asked me. They didn't have the same media opportunities. Over time, in the UFC, I had so many media obligations that it became gimmicky. It became scripted, or I'd pocket a poem on the way in or something, just to deliver something for the fans that was expected. But in the beginning, I was just answering questions, and I was pissed, and I was broke, and I was hungry, and I was eager and motivated, and all these different things, and I was upset. And then there was also an opportunity. Nobody wants to play on that end of the pool. Everybody wants to be loved.
Yes.
So if you just by volunteering to be down there, you can control that end of the pool because nobody else is getting in there. And you either want to be the good guy or the bad guy. And there was major opportunity.
Did you feel like, and I was curious with Conor, do you feel like there was pressure on you when you would do interviews or get a hold of the mic? Like, because then people expected this amazing post-fight speech or this pre-fight hype. Did you feel you were constantly thinking about it instead of it coming natural?
Yeah, that's for sure, and that was real. People would quiet the room down at a party when you take that mic at the end, and now you need to deliver. I don't know if I felt a pressure on it as much as I just understood I need to be ready when that comes. He's going to ask me one of 5 things. Think of a little something for all 5, and then wherever Rogan goes, boom, hit it out of the park and head to the back.
I was at a dinner with Chuck Liddell, and me and him were talking about Conor McGregor. I'm a huge Conor fan. I always back him. And we were talking. He was like, oh, it's ridiculous. I was champ, and I had to do all these media obligations. I went, well, it's a little different. When you were champ, it was not the same.
Right.
He's done the most interviews in that 4-year career, more than any fighter in history. And he has to focus. The game's different. He's fighting a bigger opponent. I said, also, Chuck, when you did an interview, it was pretty, I'm going to punch him in the face. I'm the Iceman. End of story. Conor has to come up with some magical shit, man. It's exhausting for him. I said, it's just different.
It's just a totally different world. And to Chuck's point, he got out there and was the front man for a little bit. Chuck took a very, very long road to success. For a number of years, a grown man with a mohawk and tattoos on his skull was weird. And over time, kids are dressing up as him as Halloween. Eventually, that became a cool thing. He became the most recognizable guy in the sport. But Chuck took a really slow road, and I've listened to Chuck's interviews too. Everything he says, every critique he gives of an athlete, he's just describing his career. He's going, well, an athlete should do this, an athlete should do that. It's going, wait a minute, Chuck, you're just saying what you did.
Yeah.
Are you trying to feather your own nest, or are you trying to look ahead? And sometimes I do get, well, you should go out there and knock him out. Yeah. Why? Because you did? I mean, there's other guys out there. Make sure if you're going to work for the company now, then work for the company.
Yeah, man. It's not about building your old self.
Oh, well, that guy, he ought to cut his hair into a mohawk and put a Kempo tattoo. It's like, no, Chuck, you're just telling us what you did. There's some other ways too, and you certainly did it right for yourself, but there's other ways.
Yeah. Let's do 2 more, Ev.
All right.
Then we get Chael to the airport.
All right.
We'll get you there fast, dog.
What was your greatest moment from your UFC career, and what is the most proud moment of your life?
All right. Well, the proudest moment of my life, I don't totally know what the word proud means, but I would think it's like exciting, which would just come with fatherhood. I had a little monster just over a year ago. Pride and joy, and I got another one on the way. So, when she sees this someday, yes, I'm sure that she will. She definitely will be one of those moments as well. So, for UFC though, this one might surprise you. The single greatest performance I've ever had was against a guy named Yushin Okami in a fight that nobody saw. Oof. We were an undercard fight at the Staples Center. I was ranked number 9 in the world. He was ranked number 2 in the world, and we're on the undercard.
He's a monster.
He's a monster. You know, we're on the undercard because we just didn't have any fans that wanted to see us fight. So Hard Fight is a great performance. And I'll tell you, my next greatest performance, and I'll bring this guy up just because he's relative in the news, Amar Sulaev. Do you know about Amar Sulaev? Okay.
No.
Fought in the UFC. In fact, I think he fought Chuck Liddell, and he fought Phil Baroni. He ended up getting tied up in some kind of a hitman. Is that what you call him? You know, a paid assassin over in Russia.
This is correct.
In Russia. So he was a fighter. He beat Bustamante over in Japan. I mean, he fought all the right guys. Became some kind of a hitman. Got jammed up. So he's sitting in prison for a couple of years. And his lawyers come. This is in real time. This story is like 8 days old. The pack. So the final episode piece here. But he goes to prison for 2 years. His lawyers try to get him out, and they're filing a petition saying, "Listen, he's about to die. He's got stomach cancer. He can't get the treatment inside." We all assumed that was just their ploy to get him out. Well, then they brought forward witnesses that witnessed him do this murder. Now, he's a very big, strong, 205-pound fighter, very European look, crooked nose, funny. He really stands out in the crowd. Well, the witnesses said it was a skinny Asian man.
Well,
and they were never talked to. And they from day one have been saying, hey, someone needs to listen to us because I watched the guy kill this other guy that you've pinned it on this Amar Sulaev, and it was a skinny Asian man. Before his lawyers can get him out, he died 8 days ago in prison. Yeah. So on one hand, I would kind of like to clear his name. If he's guilty, then I don't want to be anywhere near this. But I think that those witnesses, unprompted, unpaid, 2 years removed from the situation, that have been trying to tell them story from the beginning, but the prosecution would not listen to it. I think that it's relevant, particularly in his passing. Look, if he didn't do it, he shouldn't have to have gone to jail, but he shouldn't have to be living with that reputation. So,
good Lord.
I don't know the story. I'm only as good as what I read, but I'm hoping that Mr. Sulaev was innocent.
I remember as far as one of your career moments for me that stick out is when he was our team captain, and it was the height of his career. If he would have beat you, he would have been sitting pretty. Nate Marquardt.
Nate the Great,
and
man.
When you fought him, I thought he was the best. I didn't think he'd lose. I was like, dude, this is the best Nate's ever looked. And for whatever reason, he just I think he thought he was going to knock you out. He's throwing these flying knees, and you just dismantled him.
I had his number that night, and I've worked out with him before, so essentially fought, and it's never gone my way. But it was just, it's that night and everything. And yeah, thank you for bringing that up. And you mentioned that to me before, and I took that as a big compliment. But yeah, Nate's a stud, and he looked like he was getting his career back on track. And in fairness, it probably shouldn't be. He's been around so long, King of Pink, just done everything you do, fought for world titles, but. At some point, your races ran. Yeah, and I think his races ran. It looked like for a minute there he was going to pull it back onto Main Street, but it's like, Nate.
When he knocked out CB Dalloway, everyone's like, oh, I told you Nate shouldn't stop. I'm like, that's the worst thing that could happen. Because the last thing to go is your power. He threw a huge right hand. It landed on CB Dalloway's chin, and now he has an extended life, although he just lost another one, so I wish he would stop, but what can you do? Last one, Ev.
All right, last one. It's from Jack Churell. This may be an irritating question to ask, but what was your frame of mind when you got popped for banned substances in the UFC? Were you annoyed at the fact that the drug tests were possibly taking away your opportunity to compete late in your career? Or was it more of a blessing, akin to Brendan's loss to Travis Brown, which opened up his career as an entertainer?
No, I mean, it was a disaster. It was embarrassing. It was a scumbag move. That was my response. And I'll tell you, even when you're doing wrong, you've got to be objective, And I had my reason. Here was my litmus test. I'll never take steroids, and I'll never take anything illegal. But if I can go into a doctor and get a script for it, I will sleep just well at night. Yeah, if I can call it a medication as opposed to a drug. Now, this is a flawed psychology, but to answer his question, this was my psychology, right? We all live by a code. This was my code. It's got to be legal. I've got to be able to possess it. I've got to have doctors on my side, and I'm in. And, when I got flagged, yeah, it hurt and it was embarrassing, but it was 100% my fault. I didn't have resentment towards anybody but myself. And the rules were a little different. They had just changed. They were a little bit different. And the way they've got it now, they're strict. They're really stringent, but I understand it, and it is better for sport. It's sad on one regard. the world largely of sport belongs to people 18 to 25 years old, and with the help of certain substances, which they're now labeling out of bounds, it really helps protect that 18 to 25 year range, and so that's a tough part where other organizations don't fully agree with what USADA's done.
Correct.
But USADA they're right. They're on the right side of this. You can make all the arguments you want. USADA is on the correct side. There's an argument to be made, but they're on the right side of it.
Do you have no resentment? The only argument I can have for you in this, where you could have some resentment, is because same argument with these baseball players like Barry Bonds, Jose Canseco, Marquardt. They're like, bro, everyone was fucking doing it. We just got caught. But like Lance Armstrong's like, dude, you got to go to 18th place to find the guy who comes clean, to give him the yellow jacket or the yellow shirt. So when you look, especially the state of the game when you were in fighting, when you were doing this stuff, hate to say it, but we kind of all knew.
Sure.
For the most part, everyone was doing it, man.
Oh, yeah. It wasn't but the boys in the locker room, they knew what I was doing, and I knew what they were doing. And then we talk, and then you see, okay, what's the next thing you're going to do? It was a little bit different atmosphere back then. Again, I'm completely guilty. But one of the things I had to live with, if I do jaywalk, I don't want to be charged with murder, right? There's different levels. And when you fail one of those tests, it all becomes steroids. That's what the media does. And I've never touched a steroid. And I don't. And the only reason I bring that up is out of respect to my teachers. When I was growing up in school, that's what they don't take steroids. Somewhere over time, that changed to PEDs, to performance-enhancing drugs. And that one, I'm going, well, wait just a second. Any medicine has to enhance you, or it's malpractice. It has to do that for the FDA to put it on the shelf. So I don't love that term, but at the end of the day, a banned substance is a banned substance. And so I'm really just splitting hairs, man. I was guilty.
Boom.
That's it,
Boom.
Man, candid with Chael Sonnen, man.
Hey.
Love it, brother. Your podcast, and it's a good one. I've been on there. You got to have me back on.
I would love to have you on.
We're basically done.
Some plugs?
After I drop you off, I got to come back and do all my stuff. But we
right.
can... They find you on Instagram, social media, all that.
Yeah, social media at Chael Sonnen. I'm a Twitter guy. I've got Facebook and Instagram pages, but I personally do my own Twitter anytime you want to get a hold of me, including the negative stuff. I read it all. You guys want to hurt my feelings? Come do it on Twitter.
Good luck.
I promise I'll read it.
And then your grappling events this weekend?
That's right.
Correct?
That's right. July 17th, live and free to all members at flowcombat.com.
And the podcast on iTunes, Chael Sonnen.
Yep, called You're Welcome. And, boom, we got it all, man.
Boom, that's it, man. Good luck with the baby. Like I said, man, always appreciate you taking the time, especially you're a busy dude. This is The Fire and the Kid with Chael Sonnen. We're out.